Hello, audience. It is Monday, October 6th, and yesterday I recorded a conversation with my good friend Thomas Vanek about the Golden Dawn, the esoteric secret society obsessed with the Kabbalah and the Tarot, and their formation from within the Anglican heart of Victorian England, and their famous members like William Butler Yeats and Aleister Crowley. And we also discussed H.P. Blavatsky and her questionable understanding of Buddhism and unquestionable impact on Western esotericism. So I had a lot of fun with this conversation, and I hope you will as well, in the spirit of a slightly spooky side of the Western philosophical tradition, namely the occult. So without further ado, I present Thomas Vanek and our discussion of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn.
The flight plan I just filed with the agency lists me, my man, Dr. Pavel here, but only one of you. First one to talk gets to stay on my aircraft.
I am joined today by Adeptus Minor and Grand Magister of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, Thomas Vanek, to explain, in the spirit of spooky season, this secret society that popped up in the Victorian period in England called the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Thomas, would you describe the Golden Dawn as spooky?
Well, thank you for the introduction, Will. Happy to be here. And I would say, no, the Golden Dawn is not spooky. The Golden Dawn, I would not really qualify it as spooky. Golden Dawn there are a lot of things, all things to all men. Really, they're mostly a society of nerds. Is it the nerd season? Because if it is, this is the perfect topic. Truly, like, the Golden Dawn were Victorian, late 19th century English, upper middle class nerds who were sick of Puritanism, I mean, in the Victorian sense, and they thought that doing ceremonial magic with a bunch of other sweaty nerds was super sexy. And that's what we're going to talk about today.
Is this a gay thing?
So I looked into that. Excuse me. I looked into that, and from what I could tell, no. There's sort of this like notion, I think, circling around that the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn was, it's these like British socialites, and they all just like say, we're part of the secret society, so we can secretly bugger each other, you know what I mean? But like, there's no evidence for that, right? Like, for sure it happened. Like, there's a
Is there
a little bit
often
of that,
evidence of buggery? I mean, just
often
for the
evidence of
record,
buggery.
does it
I don't
leave
know.
a trail? I don't
I don't
know.
know. Why don't you tell me, my friend?
I think that the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn is possibly a gay thing, considering
Do you leave a trail to detect buggery?
No, because I'm in a secret society, so it never gets
there
out.
you go. Right. Yeah.
Like, Thomas, you got to remember, you're researching a group of people that all agreed to never talk about certain things.
Yeah,
so probably some part of the picture is missing.
That didn't fly so well, I'll be honest.
He didn't fly so good. Who wants to try next? Tell me about Bane. Why does he wear the mask?
Yeah, it's a good question. I can't say definitively. Now, I know you like to keep this show lawsuit free, so I won't be slandering anybody without evidence. Even if they've been dead for 120 years.
Yeah, you can't slander. You can't slander the dead legally. Just so you know, if they're dead, go for it. It's fine.
No, but I'm going to be super careful. This is evidence-based opinions. Okay, we're very serious. I'm dead
Footnotes
serious.
in the description. All right,
That's
full
right.
text citations.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I'm actually publishing a paper in a few years, specifically about this. I have a printer at home. Anyhow, let's get into it. So let me set the scene for you a little bit, right? So the year is circa 1880, right? There are three key figures that we're going to want to keep in mind. There's William Wynne Wescott, S.L. McGregor Mathers, and Dr. Woodman. These three men were the founders of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, which was founded in the year around 1888, right? So, but setting the scene for a little bit, this all takes place in London. This is not all of it, but initially it's primarily an English London-based thing. At the time, really, like, your only option if you were a person living in 1880s London was you were either Anglican, you were either a dirty, filthy, disgusting Catholic, which had recently been reinstated. You also could have been a spiritualist. You could have also been a member of the Theosophical Society. So that, along with being a Mason. So those were at least the ones that are sort of relevant to our discussion today. Those are like the big things that people could describe themselves as. And
But
the
just to be
three-
clear,
yeah.
97% of people were not in the Theosophical Society or the Freemasons
No.
or the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn.
No.
97% of people were Christian, and probably 80% were Anglican or
it was
affiliated
mostly
Protestant, like Presbyterian or something.
Without getting too into the nitty gritty, from my research, I basically was able to determine, like, yeah, most people were Anglican, right? But there was a pretty, a real group of people. So Catholicism had recently been, like, within the past 30 years, I think had been permitted to reestablish a diocese in England. So Catholicism wasn't like enemy of the crown territory anymore. Also, Irish potato famine. A lot of Irishmen came over, crossed into England, and they settled down, and they built up a pretty solid Catholic minority in various parts of England.
Despite the best efforts of the English,
Yeah.
I'll say.
Some of them survived, believe it or not. I know.
Yeah.
No, but at the time there was people who, ironic, it's kind of, I find this funny. They called themselves agnostic because being an atheist was literally outlawed. So they said, no, I'm agnostic. Sort of like in modern parlance, someone says they're an agnostic. They're like, they just don't want to admit to being an atheist. No offense to my agnostics out there, but reality is, like, yeah, most people were Christian. And that being said, there was still this sort of trend. I mean, this is what's to me so fascinating about the Victorian period is it's like you have all of these changes happening in England at the time where people are like, what else is going on? I mean, some of the big influences of the Hermetic Order, I'll just say Golden Dawn. I'll just say Golden Dawn from here on out. Some of the big influences of the...
I'm going to make one note, which is there's another organization called the Golden Dawn, and they're not a historical curiosity of poets who dressed up like pirates and Egyptian pharaohs and threw curses at each other. No, this group, the Golden Dawn, is a far-right, basically neo-Nazi Greek political party.
Are they still
that
around?
I think I don't know. They popped up in the 2000s, I believe. But yeah, so we are not talking about fascists yet.
I mean,
so
not directly. Yeah, not directly, at least. Maybe we'll get into that near the end of the episode. But
can someone be a fascist before fascism as a political, like a real actual political force becomes historically real?
You can have fascist tendencies, I think. You can have proto-fascism. I don't know.
Tendencies, like psychological traits. Like, are you one of those, like, right-wing psychology people who think that fascism's a personality trait?
Now, that would be an interesting topic. If we wanted to sit down and
Eric Fromm, Escape from Freedom. Seriously.
No.
Yeah.
Reich, even. I mean, Reich's mass psychology of fascism is a sort of gross, but very fascinating tale. Super interesting. It's bizarro nonsense in a lot of points, or at least stuff that I think people find morally distasteful nowadays. But I think, like, his analysis of a lot of the the mass psychological aspects of fascism are spot on. I like his analysis. At any rate, getting back to Victorian England, right? I mean, at the time, there was a lot of this drive to, like, do something a little different. I think spiritualism is a really good example of this, right? Where spiritualism was basically people holding seances, summoning spirits, and being like, I can see over to the other side, and they have a message for you. I mean, it's like really classic sort of, most of it mummery, frankly. Like, you didn't get a lot of stuff. But for example, like Arthur Conan Doyle was a spiritualist. He was like an avid spiritualist. The man who wrote Sherlock Holmes avid, dedicated to rational logic deduction, excluding all, paranormal possibilities. Yeah, that guy who wrote that, yeah, he's like, he loved going to seances. As a matter of fact, Arthur Conan Doyle was vetted as a potential recruit for the Golden Dawn at one point. I forget exactly who was it that introduced himself, but he writes about it in his journals at some point, like in, I think it would have been like the late 1890s. He basically is like, yeah, these like weird guys showed up to my house and they're like, do you want to join, join our order? And he said, no, thank you. But at any rate, so getting back
But
to that sort of,
hold on.
yeah,
I gotta jump. I gotta tell a seance story.
Let's hear a seance story.
So as Thomas said, seances were very popular, and they were quite popular with educated upper class people, which might be a little surprising, right? But one of the people that really believed in seances didn't just like go to one or two parties and got spooked, but like someone that would hold seances and really believed that they had the power to raise and commune with the dead was a British man by the name of Douglas Haig. And if you are a World War I person, the name Douglas Haig is probably making you clench your fist around the steering wheel right now, because Douglas Haig was the British commander of one of the worst days in the entire military history of the British Empire, notably a little something called the Battle of the Somme, where he sent literally tens of thousands of British boys to die under a barrage of artillery fire. And, they nicknamed him the Butcher. And one of the funny things about Douglas the Butcher Haig is that he used to hold seances where he believed he could talk to Napoleon, and that Napoleon Bonaparte had come back from the dead to give military advice. And he would hold these seances. I can't prove definitively that he didn't, but I can prove that 30,000 British people lie in the muck because of Douglas fucking Haig.
That's one of the most World War I stories of all time.
Yeah. He believed he was getting military instructions directly from Jesus Christ, if I remember correctly. So anyway, yeah, a lot of people were into seances is the point of that story, and it has, in weird ways, tipped history.
Well, and a lot of people were really into Egyptology at the time. So that's going to be one of the big influences of the Golden Dawn.
Powder.
Yeah, no, dude. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those like things thrown around, like how, like, like most of the mummies that were discovered in the 19th century by British, French, etc. explorers were consumed because people thought that mummies had curative properties. They'd eat their ground up flesh. I mean,
how do you know they didn't, Thomas? Did you go back in time and do a double blind, peer reviewed, placebo controlled study?
Tell me right now, if someone who you knew and trusted said, hey, Will, I've got some ground up mummy dust. It makes your cock so fucking hard forever. Would you try it? Technically cannibalism.
No, this is like a cursed genie thing, because cock hard forever would literally be like a walking nightmare.
Whatever you want. You have unlimited stamina and virility.
Here's the thing. I don't, as a matter of deduction, have a problem with the idea that mummy powder has some kind of medicinal property, because I'm sure that there are some really weird organic unique compounds in mummy powder, like organic molecules that you can only get from, I don't know, fucking fermenting and then desiccating some bit of human flesh, combined with whatever the fuck they used for mummification. I'm sure there's a compound in there that does something, probably just makes you sick. But do I think the cultural phenomenon was a bunch of fucking stupid Victorian people hyping each other up over nothing? Oh yeah, almost definitely.
That wasn't my question. Would you try it? Would you say, would I try mummy dust? Yeah.
If I knew it wasn't poison, I mean, it'd be hard not to.
The guy said, here, look, your friend who you trust goes, here, I'll have a pinch. You try a pinch of mummy dust. Just put it on
It
your
seems a
tongue.
little sacrilegious, you know. It feels like this could trigger some kind of curse.
I know,
You
but
know,
would you
like
do it? That's the question.
that might be the premise of the next Mummy movie, is not that they, you know, open some, you know, sealed eldritch sarcophagus and set off the Pharaoh's curse, but actually they huff the forbidden
Yeah,
dust. And
it becomes it becomes a TikTok trend to
and
huff
then
mummy
they
dust.
become the
Yeah.
mummy, right?
Oh my
They get
God.
taken over from within. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know why you're not a producer for Disney or something, but that's just me. Well, all I gotta say is I'd try it. But yeah, back to the to the thing, to the Golden Dawn, right? So that's the setup. There's all of this conflux of influences, including Helena Blavatsky, Theosophical Society. She first arrived in 1884 into London, and the real first, from what I could interpret, the first like temple learning school. I don't know what they call them. I'm not a theosopher, but it was set up in 1887, which was the same year that the Golden Dawn was founded, right? So let's get into the founding of the Golden Dawn, because this ends up being kind of like the critical pillar that the rest of the story sort of rests upon and revolves around it. So you have these three men.
hold on, hold
Yeah,
on.
go.
I will let you run with that, but first I must reveal the surprise that I
Oh
promised.
yeah, let's hear your surprise.
And you mentioned it already, which is because of this podcast and because of you, I've done something that I have not done since I was 17 years old, which is I've reread H.P. Blavatsky and boned up on the Theosophists.
Whoa.
And we are going to be talking about Blavatsky and her traveling to Tibet and discovering an unknown language, and then creating you know, a new book out of it that everybody says is filled with mumbo jumbo and plagiarism.
So what did you read? Like, did you read like Isis Unveiled or the Secret Doctrine?
No, I read one of her last books, a kind of summative effort called The Key to Theosophy, in
Mhm.
which she kind of lays it out in a sort of Socratic method manner where she interviews herself about theosophy.
That's kind of
Um,
fun.
yeah. But anyway, you first, and then
Well,
we'll get to her.
Yeah, wonderful thing. She's got a fascinating story, but I'll be honest, I have a Ice Unveiled the Bridge. I couldn't make it through it. It's really hard. It's some dense literature.
That's why I haven't read her since I was 17. Is she's mostly bad. She's mostly bad, but she has her moments anyway.
Well, that's certainly true. And so yeah, Theosophy was sort of becoming very popular, at least among certain circles in London at the time, like right around the time that the Golden Dawn was kicking off. So it absolutely had a lot of influence. And the relationship between the Theosophists, not sure, Theosophists and the Golden Dawn, sort of is tenuous throughout the duration of this story. Like, they allow some Theosophists in, people who have been attending those like lectures and that sort of things. And then sometimes they're like, no, you cannot join us if you're a dirty Theosophist. What are you talking about? So it goes back and forth a little bit. But yeah, so the three main people the three founders of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, William Wynne Wescott, S.L. McGregor Mathers, and Dr. Woodman. I actually can't remember his first name. Anyhow, Woodman. He is by far the least important of the three. He was more just like, I'm here too, of the founding of the Golden Dawn. He was described. So A.E. Waite was another member of the Golden Dawn, prodigious as in very wordy author. He described him as an obscure occultist, which is, I think, an interesting title to just give to someone.
A.E. Waite was someone who actually specialized in obscure occultists.
Yeah.
I have his book, The Hermetic Museum, because it's one of the only it's a library of hermetic and alchemical tracts, like, you know, shit with titles like The Triumphal Chariot of Antinomy, and shit like that. And you're just like, okay.
Yeah. Don't lie to me and tell me you've read it, because I know that's not true. He's impossible to read.
I've read a
Well,
little bit of Waite's own writing and been like, oh, wow, this is
I
like fudge.
I own a, to me it's really nice. I own a really nice copy of a new encyclopedia of Freemasonry by Waite, and it's good. In the sense that, like, if I'm ever curious about a very specific topic about Freemasonry, I can reference that book, and it will explain at length the precise details of whatever it is I'm interested in. But yeah, so Waite was a member of the Golden Dawn for several years. We'll get into him in detail later, but he ended up sort of writing these recollections and memoirs specifically related to the Golden Dawn, which ended up being how we know. I mean, we get his impression of a lot of the members, which ends up being insightful in its own way. But yeah, so Woodman ends up being sort of a non-entity in the whole Golden Dawn escapade. I think he dies he dies in 1891, well before the Golden Dawn really reaches any sort of before anything really interesting happens. The two main founders, you've got Mathers and you've got Wescott. So William Wynne Wescott was a Royal British coroner, worked with dead bodies all day.
Good
And
sign, always.
yeah, well, and that in particular becomes significant
And you
too.
said they weren't spooky.
Well, being a coroner's not spooky. It's a job.
No,
Come
no, no,
on.
no. Of course. Listen, if you're a coroner, great. It's important work. Thank you
Yeah.
for your service.
Yeah.
But also, working with
Part-
dead bodies is working with dead bodies. Yo,
It's true. Okay, it's a little spooky. And the thing is that the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn was fundamentally Westcott's idea. Like, it was him who had the idea to create a funny little order of people who wanted to do magic together. It was his idea. But it gets co-opted from him pretty fucking hard down the road.
We got a lot of shit to talk about, dude. We've
Yeah,
put
we
a lot on
certainly
the
do.
table already. We've talked, Blavatsky, Waite.
Yeah,
Waite's interesting
Victorian
in his own
England.
right.
Well, you had
Yeah, this
mentioned,
shit's
oh yeah,
got a lot of
Waite's an interesting
connections.
guy. Well,
I
you
like him.
specifically
Overall,
mentioned
Waite's okay. He's a good
Yeah.
scholar.
It's fun to rag on him, but
His
yeah.
writing is, like I said, it's fudge, man. But it's he read the shit. He's got the footnotes.
Yeah.
He knows what the fuck he's talking about.
Oh yeah. No, yeah, he's not unintelligent for sure.
At least you can talk. Who are you?
It doesn't matter who we are. What matters is our plan. No one cared who I was till I put on the mask.
If I pull that off, will you die?
It would be extremely painful
You're a big guy.
for you.
Okay, so you were getting on a roll about the main guy, right?
Wescott, yeah. Yeah, so Wescott essentially it was his idea. Golden Dawn was Wescott's invention. He was the first one to think about it. And we'll get into kind of some of the context for that later. But essentially, he's like, okay, I want to put together this society where we can all perform magic rituals and have a lot of fun, and it'll be a great time. And so he went to the British Museum, right, in London, and he found there one certain individual by the name of S.L. Mathers, aka Frater SRMD, which I have it written here as Siroigal Modrem, which means royal is my tribe. Mathers is really kind of going to be the main bad role model of this episode. I'll be honest. Wescott, decent guy. Like, no one really has anything bad to say about him mostly. Mathers is the guy who really kind of fucks things up for everybody, becomes very egotistical, and just spoils it. But we're not there yet, because the Golden Dawn hasn't even been founded. It's not but a twinkle in Wescott's eye at this point. So Wescott goes to the British Museum, and he meets this man by the name of S.L. McGregor Mathers. Now, Mathers was super into occultism. Wescott had an interest in it. Wescott was into it, but Mathers was into it, if you follow my meaning. He was extremely well-read, extremely knowledgeable, highly opinionated, and eventually kind of insane, kind of an actual psycho. So they meet up. Mathers.
So hold on, just to keep our cast straight here. If you had to, as an exercise, map these guys onto pop culture figures or characters in movies that people would recognize, what's their archetype here?
Okay, let's say, trying to think, say X-Men, right? You've got so let's say like the Wolverine movie, right? You've got Professor X. That's Wescott. Professor X is like the brains behind the operation. He runs the X-Men, and he's the guy who kind of like is in control. Mathers is like Wolverine. He's the main character of the Wolverine movie or the Golden Dawn movie or whatever you want to say. It ends up, I don't know, maybe he's more of a Magneto character. I think he's probably more of a Magneto character. I don't know, X-Men movies. It's hard to. It's sort of
chose
like,
X-Men, dude.
Yeah, I don't know X-Men. I'm just trying to think of like I'm trying to think of pop culture examples. It's nothing immediately comes to mind. Essentially, Wescott was the guy with the idea who just wanted a club, not a boys club, but like a club. Mathers, hardcore into the occult, bought all of it, hook, line, sinker, and he was the guy who became the center of the organization, though he wasn't the guy with the initial idea. So now we get to the founding of the Golden Dawn, which is itself a little. So this is kind of where things are tenuous, right? So it depends on who you believe, what source you believe. It's very vague. Mathers is the one who finds this book in the British Library, or I think I said museum. It's one of the two. And in this book, there is this page called the Cipher Manuscript. The Cipher Manuscript, when they deciphered it, contained a set of rituals that had heretofore been unknown. It was signed, supposedly, with an address with the name, I believe, Frater, which, by the way, Frater means brother, Soror means sister. If you're in a fraternity, you might understand better. Frater SDA, and an address located in Germany. The official story goes, is that Mathers sent a letter to Frater SDA and said, hey, we found these manuscripts, we deciphered them, we want to start our own quote unquote lodge in London. And Frater SDA responds. And Frater, referred to by Frater, it's a female, supposedly by the name Fräulein Sprengel. She responds.
So hold on.
Yeah,
I mean, to be clear, like, they're talking about deciphering what I assume has to be an old manuscript or an old piece of text that has, been around long enough to work its way into the British Library or whatever, and it has a current mailing address in it.
Right. So the mailing address was a recent addendum, according to them. Like, there was this old manuscript which had then been sort of signed with an address by Frater SDA. That was the claim. And so, yeah.
So these guys, they're looking for real life Easter eggs.
Right.
They're trying to decipher the some similar object as the Voynich manuscript.
That's the thing. It's such a romantic image of like these two, occultists hunched over a whale oil lamp in the British Library in Victorian England, deciphering a manuscript and revealing the address of an existing occultist and saying, we should start our own lodge. Like, there's a romance to that, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's Joseph Smith, digging up the golden tablets when he's 14. And I'm sorry to the Mormons out there, but that did not happen. Joseph Smith did not walk out of his house, dig around in the dirt at random, and pull out tablets made out of solid gold, which only he could read with special glasses, which he had to dig up out of the ground somewhere else. And then later, when people wanted to look at the tablets, he said he couldn't find the tablets, and he didn't have the glasses either.
Exactly. I mean, you're kind of right on the money with the Golden Dawn in the same way, because
Blavatsky is the same. She has the same exact shtick, and it is It is infuriating. For example, on Wikipedia, there is a page called Senzar Language, Senzar, and just to secretly or just to shamelessly read from Wikipedia for a moment. Senzar is a supposed original language of the stanzas of Xian. The stanzas of Xian is one of these H.P. Blavatsky books. It is referenced in multiple locations in works of Helena Blavatsky. In her Secret Doctrine, which is her kind of first like big book, Blavatsky calls Senzar, quote, a tongue absent from the nomenclature of languages and dialects with which philology is acquainted, end quote, while the Theosophical glossary defines it as, quote, the mystic name for the secret sacerdotal language or the mystery speech of the initiated adepts all over the world. In Isis Unveiled, Blavatsky identifies Senzar as being, quote, ancient Sanskrits. Anyway.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. It's all an occult encoding that only the divine initiates can ever understand.
Oh, yeah. Of course.
And then under critical reception, it says historian Ronald H. Fritze notes that Blavatsky claimed to have received her information during trances in which the masters of Mahatmas of Tibet communicated with her and allowed her to read from the ancient Book of Xian. The Book of Xian was supposedly composed in Atlantis using the lost language of Senzar. But the difficulty is that no scholar of ancient languages in the 1880s or since has encountered the slightest passing reference to the Book of Xian or the Senzar language.
This touches on sort of a bigger topic. Like, I'm going to put a pause on the Golden Dawn explanation for a moment. This is kind of a key, really. Like, this is a key, you're totally good. This is like this is a key takeaway, I think, for me, because I love occultism. I think it's super interesting, and I study it a lot. But the thing is, a lot of it's kind of made up. Not all of it, in the sense of it's not like it's totally fake, but what you can understand is it's really, really important for occultists to establish a line of initiation where they're like, I was initiated by that guy. That guy was initiated by his master. And if you go all the way back, that guy was initiated by Poimandres from the, if you read the Hermetic Corpus, it's like, yeah, so like I'm basically descended from that guy or from Jesus or from Hector. I don't know, whatever you like, insert
most
like historical character here.
Most are content to just take it back to ancient Egypt.
Yeah,
they're like, listen, everybody agrees ancient
Hermes
Egypt is ancient. It's cool. Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Hermes Trismegistus is like the one.
Yeah, most of them will say it all goes back to Hermes, right? Hermes inspired Moses, Hermes inspired, the Buddha and so forth, and created monotheism. And it's like, okay, but then there are the people that are like, nah, man, Egypt's a later thing. You got to go back to Lemuria.
Yeah,
we got to talk about Atlantis.
Well,
and
I mean, you can go as far. Listen, you can go as far back as you want because it's all fucking fake. Like, listen. Because here's the thing, tying it back to the Golden Dawn, I'll just spoil it now. Frater SDA never existed. Completely fabricated by Mathers. At least that's what I believe, right? He basically said, okay, well, we want to... He talked to Wescott. Whether or not Wescott was in on it is immaterial and apocryphal, right? He basically said, they found these documents that were dated to, I don't know, centuries prior, right? The time of what's the famous British guy? What's his name?
Like Edward?
Yeah,
Edwardian England. What are you thinking about?
The guy who that occultist. I'm blanking on the name. He
John
summoned
Dee?
this. Yeah, John Dee. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Elizabeth. Okay. Elizabeth and John Dee. Yeah.
Right. It, like dating from that time or something to the. It's what they claimed, right? Well, upon analysis, the Cipher manuscripts dated from like 1817, like around the time that Eliphas Levi was writing, or earlier than that. But like the parchment itself was from 1817, and then it was probably written much later in like the 1870s or something. Like it really wasn't like what they were reading wasn't that old. But for whatever reason, Mathers felt the need to justify the fact that, okay, well, we're starting society, we have to have some sort of legitimacy. And it's not good enough. It wasn't good enough in their mind to just say, we're starting an occult hermetic society, come join. We're the guys that know a lot about it. It's like, no, it's got to be established by some great things, by secret masters, which are, I'm sure they pulled that one straight from Blavatsky, by contact with the secret chiefs, secret masters, what have you, right? That's straight theosophy.
I'm just gonna say one fucking thing. All right.
Yeah.
If anyone in the audience is interested in meeting the secret masters, you have two options. One is a baggie with 4 grams of dried magic mushrooms. The second is a library card. Pick.
Or both. Both is good.
Or both.
Both is good. So, at any rate, just to sort of elaborate on this, right? So you've got Wescott and Mathers. For just a slight bit more context, they were both Masons. They were both members of the SRIA, the Societas Rosicruciana in Anglia, which was basically one of the like subsects of Masonry. That's another
rule.
Yeah.
Make it Latin. Make it Latin. If you want it to sound legitus, usus the mostus ustuses, okay?
That's like, I mean, that it perfectly encapsulates what we're talking about. No, I mean, literally, yeah. So the SRIA was basically Masonry, but we're going to focus on Rosicrucianism, right? What they called Rosicrucianism. And the Golden Dawn has its roots primarily in Masonry. I think that's kind of a key thing. I don't know how much I've really mentioned that, but Masonry is sort of it provides the structure that the Golden Dawn emulates from here on out. So at any rate, they're in the British Library. They supposedly find the manuscripts, the Cipher manuscripts with Frater SDA. Mathers would go on to have a prolonged conversation with Frater SDA. So Fräulein Sprengel keeps sending him letters, giving him permission to establish a lodge in London. The reality is he knew a guy who knew a bit of German and had him write some letters in German and then send those to his mailbox. And it'd be like, oh, look, I just got another letter from Frater SDA. What could it possibly say? This was Mathers doing. Wescott kind of knew from what everyone, because Wescott wasn't an idiot. But
just inviting all the friends over to your house on the day when the letter arrives, like, look, everybody, here it is in the mailbox. I definitely didn't send this to myself.
Yeah, right. Well,
this isn't a Canadian girlfriend. This is real.
It's tough to say for sure who knew and who didn't, because it becomes a big point of contention later in the lifespan of the Golden Dawn. So regardless, this is the founding. They have the rituals. They have their quote unquote authorization to found a lodge. So what do they do except for found their lodge? They say, okay, we're going to start the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. And what this ends up happening, let's see here, recruitment for what they called the First Order or Outer Order of the Golden Dawn. It wasn't called that at the time, but that's what's convenient to refer it to as. So just they're recruiting for the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. It starts around in March 1888 when they start and they open their doors and they say, okay, we want to invite members. Of course, they had friends who they thought were interested, and people join various sorts of things. So one of the notable and also important figures in the story ends up being the poet, William Butler Yeats, or Yeats. I think it's Yeats. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, Yeats. So Yeats ends up being one of the more important figures in the Golden Dawn, and one of the more famous ones. So he joins in 1890, and then Waite joins in 1891. He then resigns in 1892, and then rejoins in 1896, just in time for all the fun stuff to pop out. So essentially, things were chill. Like, they started this society, started initiating people into their order. Things were going pretty good. It was a fun time. They got to do fun magic rituals. They got to put on costumes. They got to hang out with people, discuss occult topics with the various people who, were interested.
It was a
in
book
it.
club. It was a book club.
It was
for people
kind of a
that,
book club, which is what
spent their
Wescott
spare
wanted.
time.
No,
Yeah,
straight up. That is what Wescott wanted. He's like, I just kind of want to hang out with people and do fun rituals and chit chat. And like, I forget, I don't remember, didn't write down where their like addresses for their temples were located, but they basically had a couple little bases, main hubs of operation where they just have like everyday people coming in and out, and they would have rituals and do all this stuff. Wescott was a coroner, right? And so he had a job. Mathers was fine with this. He was cool for a while, and then he wasn't. This is kind of, so things start to really get interesting after a couple of years. So eventually what ends up happening, before we get into all of that, I'd say let's break down a little bit about what the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn constitutes.
Yeah, like what do they believe? How are they just different? How are they different from just Christians or atheists who like poetry? Like what?
Yeah. So essentially, the thing about the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn is, so they're not Christian per se, right? Most of their DNA does come from Masonry. And so one of the things they did was establish a level of grades, right? So when you join the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, you don't just join, asshole. You're initiated into the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn.
Fucking rookie mistake.
Yeah,
thinking you can just sign up.
Dude, well, back the fuck up, okay? No, you're initiated into the Golden Dawn. And when you become initiated, you go through some big long ritual, and you become a 0 degrees equals 0 degrees neophyte. Now, once you have been a neophyte, you are officially invited into the order, can go to meetings, you're a member, you go to meetings and receive instruction in occult sciences. They had sort of a mentorship system set up. You were given copies of papers that had instructions specific
fucking
to your
homework.
grade.
God
Dude,
damn.
you get
fucking homework.
No, dude, it's not homework, okay?
You'd think you'd get like a cursed scepter, a grimoire that you're not allowed to open for 5 years, a bag full of, bones.
No, dude.
They just gave you a fucking PDF?
Dude,
really?
Real. They gave you copies of the flying scrolls, okay? And you had to read them and know them by heart.
That's another thing that bummed me out about the Freemasons. I watched a documentary following a guy who was, becoming initiated in a Blue Lodge. So just getting started with the Masons. And he said the hardest thing is that for these rituals, you have to memorize lines like you're a Shakespearean player.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You have to keep like fucking paragraphs of text in your head. And if you fuck it up, it's super embarrassing. So
it is.
I'm like, I don't know about this.
Yeah. So just for the record, we have in modern times copies of basically all of the Golden Dawn rituals, as well as the instructional materials they presented for the various grades. And yeah, it's a lot of reading. So, I mean, some of the lower level stuff is pretty simple, right? So if you're a neophyte, you're going to do things like learn how to meditate. Obviously Theosophy was an influence, but in general, yoga, so, Indian and Near Eastern and all of those sorts of religions and cultural influences had sort of spread into England at the time. So meditation, you got to learn how to meditate. Specific techniques for doing so. You also learned about attributions, right? So one of the main sort of philosophical motifs of the Golden Dawn is the study of the Kabbalah. The Kabbalah is, generally speaking, written about it's this ancient, I'm going to air quotes this a little bit, it's this ancient Hebrew philosophy / magical system that they were super into. It's mostly expounded upon in the Zohar. So if you know anything about Jewish history, I won't claim to know a ton, but that's the book where they basically wrote about Kabbalah. and that's where a lot of this comes from. Of course, Hermeticism, other the things
There's
that kind of
Christian Kabbalah. It gets
right.
more and more complicated as you look at it. Yeah, it's sort of an endless like table of free associations that people have been making for centuries, where it's like, let's create this schema, let's create this diagram, and let's just get it all out there on the table, and let's just throw down layer upon layer upon layer upon layer of meaning on this thing.
Yeah.
Which is exactly how a Tibetan mandala works, by the way, is every line means something. Every number means something. Every color, every shape, they all mean something. You know, the 8 this, the 16 that's, you know, the 3 thises. And you're supposed to hold all of that in your mind at once as you look at this picture. Right. And so similarly, the Kabbalah works in the same way, where it's like, oh, this like stick figure diagram explains the Big Bang. Oh, okay. Well, let's play with that for a second. Okay.
Right. And and that's, I guess you could call it that's sort of a mechanism, I guess, of the canon of Western occultism, right? It's highly syncretic. It draws from all sorts of, Platonic, Neoplatonic, Zoroastrianism, Near Eastern astrology. You got the tarot in there. You've got Hebrew religions, and like it becomes this huge like syncretic mess, and it sort of became the task of occultists through 18th, 19th, and 20th centuries to basically make sense of all of that, and they did that by what's called these attributions. So specifically, just to educate people who may not know, so the main focus of the Kabbalah and the Kabbalistic school of thought is what's called the Tree of Life, which is, as I was saying, a big diagram that is composed of 2 things: spheres and paths. Right? I'm not going to do a whole exegesis on the Tree of Life. We don't
have 16 hours. Yeah.
Right. Yo, 16, please. No, but it kind of becomes, it is relevant specifically to the Golden Dawn. I mean, this was like one of the core of their beliefs, right? So you've got you've got at the top of the tree, you've got Cipher, and then at the bottom, it works its way down through the various, there's 10 spheres and 22, 23 paths. I'd have to brush up on it. And then you've got Malkuth at the bottom, which is represents the material world. Then there is, of course, 4 planes of the Kabbalah from Messiah and Bariah and that sort of thing. I mean, there's subdivisions upon subdivisions.
And there's 3 pillars, and it goes, and it goes on and on like that.
It does kind of go on and on. I mean, I actually really like the book. It's called The Holy Kabbalah by Dion Fortune, where it really like breaks down every single part of the Tree of Life in a really rational way. It's really good. I highly recommend it for anyone interested in kind of getting that was kind of my introduction to Kabbalah, and it helped me understand it a lot. Do you have a copy?
Yeah, hold on.
Crazy. Unbelievable.
Damn, I think something happened to my Kabbalah book. This is spooky.
Spooky, man. Probably just out of sight. Do you have the Dion Fortune book?
No, I have a different book. That's why I sprung out of my chair to get it. Because this is a rather abstruse topic, and I didn't remember the name of the author, but I thought he did a good job, and I was going to recommend it, and now I can't find it, which I think means I'm cursed or something. Like, if a Kabbalah book disappears from your house, you're at the start of a horror novel, I think.
Yeah, that's bad juju, my friend.
This can't be a fucking good sign. Okay, but I did find my Hermetic Museum book.
Is that the white one?
Yeah, check this shit out. Yep.
Oh, okay, that's pretty slick. I like that.
Yeah. So, a dialogue between Mercury the alchemist and nature. A preface to the riddle of the sages. The 12th treatise concerning the stone and its virtues.
Oh my
God. Hold up. Yeah, the names of some of these are here. There's got to be.
Does it have the chemical wedding of Christian Rosenkreutz?
Probably not.
Not much of an alchemy book then, huh?
Yeah. Shut up. The Hermetic Museum, Volume 2. Fuck me. Do I only have Volume 2? There's no way.
Well, there you go. It must be Volume 1.
That's got to be. No, this is a frontispiece. This is that's
Mm,
bullshit. Uh, the chemical treatise of Thomas Norton, the Englishman, called "Believe Me" or "The Ordinal of Alchemy." 2, the Testament of Kramer, Abbot of Westminster and brother of the Benedictine Order. 3, this is a good one. The New Chemical Light, drawn from the Fountain of Nature and of Manual Experience by Michael Sindivogius. Uh, an open entrance to the closed palace of the king by an anonymous sage and lover of truth. 6, a subtle allegory concerning the secrets of alchemy. The three treatises of Philalethes. John Frederick Helvetius's The Golden Calf, which the world worships and adores, in which is discussed the most rare miracle of nature in the transmutation of metals, namely, how at the Haig a mass of lead was in a moment of time changed into gold by the infusion of a small particle of our stone. Uh,
mm,
and 11, the all-wise doorkeeper, or a fourfold figure exhibiting analytically to all who enter this museum the mosaico-hermetic science of things above and things below. I
yeah.
mean, this is not your average tome.
No.
This is
I'll,
this is some very arcane shit. So
I
when A.E. Waite said the other guy was obscure, I was like,
uh
damn.
yeah. Well, Woodman was obscure in the sense of he wasn't around for very long, didn't do terribly much, and then died.
But I
And
but I
I
am
mean,
realizing I only have volume 2 now, which I had
oh,
somehow not noticed before, so
there you
that'll
go.
have to be corrected. Yeah.
I'm sure it will.
Can't have
Yeah,
half a
I
museum. What the fuck?
better than no, yeah, better than no museum. Although I will say, like, from what I can tell, outside of uh, the thing is that the Golden Dawn doesn't really dabble too much in alchemy specifically. They're very, very rigorously ceremonial magic, where they're like, we sit down, we do the incantations, we do the invocation and evocation and the consecrations and the circumambulations, and then we go home, right? It's not like I'm going to sit in front of this like cauldron where I've dumped metallic mercury and sulfur and, let it boil while I breathe the fumes for a couple of months. They don't really do that from what I can tell. But yeah, no. So getting back to the point. So Kabbalah, Tree of Life, this is a big thing. 10 spheres, right? Which correspond, it's all about correspondences, to the different grades of initiation. So as a 0 equals 0 neophyte, you are in the first sphere of the Tree of Life, aka Malkuth, the material world, the phenomenal world, whatever, right? And you've been inducted into the order, but you don't know, you haven't accessed any of these higher levels. Without getting into, yeah, so let's kind of skipping over, then you've got 1 equals 10 Zelator, 2 equals 9 Theoricus, 3 equals 8 Practicus, and 4 equals 7 Philosophus. Those are what's considered the 0th through the 4th grades. Those are the outer order or first order of the Golden Dawn. So you're a normal member, or you show up to rituals, that sort of things. You do various things. They would do things like consecrate their lotus wands and their magical weapons. So the what's it that the dagger of air, that sort of thing, right? And so they would do all of the author I was reading claims, yeah, most of them just like consecrated their magical weapons and then like never did rituals again. And I find that a little bit, maybe it's not quite generous enough. I mean, I'm sure people were there was members who were quite devoted to it, right? And would continue to buy into and genuinely practice this sort of things. They also end up going through and do tons of other stuff. So they integrate astrology. So astrology, astrological symbols, symbols for they do like alchemical symbols for like Mercury and fire and the sun and that sort of thing. And then they do the tarot ends up being a big part of this too, where they work that in and they say, well, these cards are they correlate to certain spheres and paths on the tree. So each trump of the tarot, so you've got the Fool, you've got the the tower, you've got the universe, that sort of thing. Those trump cards each apply to the specific path, which is a connection between spheres on the tree of life. That's the thinking, right? And then each suit, each number of each suit applies to the number of the spheres, right? There's like all of this.
Let me
stuff,
say one thing about the tree of life. Like, you know, we can list its attributes, but I want to provide kind of like what you could call like an overall picture of what this is meant to represent. So it represents a story told about the nature of divinity, and the story goes a little something like this. In the beginning, and always, and now, and forever, there was the Absolute, or the Ein Sof, the undivided, primordial, homogeneous, infinite divinity, right? The pure light of God. And it was all that was, and is, and ever will be. However, in order to expand the range of existence, this light had to burst forth into something that was not itself. And so there's an old Jewish riddle that goes, you know, what does God, with his infinite power, infinite wisdom, and infinite goodness, lack? And the answer is, what God lacks is lack. What God lacks is finitude. And so as this light spreads into, you know, this universe that it creates through its own outward momentum, it becomes heavier and denser, and it passes through a series of, you think of it like phase transitions, like steam cooling into water, cooling into ice, cooling into rock, right? Where it passes down through these increasingly less spiritual and more material aspects, which are the emanations, or the Sephiroth on the tree of life. And it follows a lightning bolt course as it goes down, you know, kind of pinballing its way down to the level of you waiting in traffic right now, and gritting your teeth and breathing, you know, diesel fumes. So all the way from the absolute of the absolute down to the McDonald's drive-through. And what the Tree of Life is a representation of that event, which is both, you know, a path down as well as a path up. Because in the Gnostic / Neoplatonic way of thinking, your job is to reascend back up this spiritual hierarchy by gathering light and dispelling darkness or materiality. And so anyway, that's the big picture, I guess, with the Kabbalah.
Yeah. No, you've kind of nailed it. I think that's an excellent explanation, and that ascension through from materiality back to pure spirituality is what they're representing in these grades, right? The theory really is that each further initiation past your neophyte level puts you in a new sphere or Sephiroth, the same thing. And as you trace these paths back up to the crown, right? The crown, the peak of the Kabbalah, to the peak of the Tree of Life. I think the other, I mean, man, like there's so much to talk about, like specifically about Kabbalah and the interesting thing. I think the one other key thing that I'd like to sort of mention, just playing off of what you were saying, is this occult concept called it's derived from the Emerald Tablet, Tablet of Hermes. It's the notion of as above, so below. Like, you've probably heard that before, but really what this means, it's not, I mean, it's fun outside of fun phraseology. It really means that the universe is mapped onto a person, and a person is mapped onto the universe, right? They're not the same, but they are corollary. And this is the key function of ceremonial magic and any magic and whatever kind you want, right? It's that you, as a practitioner, are manipulating and ascending through your personal growth, transformation. You are doing these things, and you are influencing by using this Kabbalistic mapping, you are influencing the external universe. Like, that's the basic function that you're trying to achieve. It works in reverse as well, but that's all you can, that's what you're trying to achieve. If you want to go with the psychological explanation, right, it's like we make our own reality, right? We in our own unity of apperception, we're the ones influencing our immediate reactions and how we perceive things. And that's by influencing these mechanisms, by pulling these levers in our psychology, right? We're able to then literally change the world, change the outside world by pulling levers in our own brain. That's the psychological. I mean, if you want to get very exotic with it, it's like, yeah, when I perform these rituals, I am actually summoning the spirit of Horus. I am actually manifesting myself as Osiris reborn. And that is, we're role playing so hard that it's shattering fucking reality. That's the thinking. Like, that's the logic. And successful practice of magic requires you to fully believe that. And this is a lot of what the Golden Order did. Mm-hmm.
You can imagine that a belief system that says if you role play hard enough, you get whatever you want was popular with theater dweebs and poetry nerds, right, and guys that taught themselves Sanskrit, And,
right? Yeah. So you can see why I said less spooky, more nerdy. Because really, I mean, these members, they had to read. They joined organizations that gave them homework, right? They joined organizations that said, in an organization that basically told them, like, yeah, you're actual dog shit right now, but if you read all of these papers and dress up in a robe and hold on to these magical artifacts, you will unlock the higher secrets of the universe. That was,
but first of all,
like, that was the pitch.
And I want to say, I respect it. I respect homework. It gets around. It gets around what I call the Groucho problem, which is the old Groucho Marx joke about I would only want to join a club that wouldn't accept me as a member. Or sometimes you hear it the other way. I would never want to join a club that would accept me or someone like me as a member.
Sure.
And it's like, if you join an elite secret society fraternity that, possesses the secrets of the Philosopher's Stone or the keys of world government, it's like you would doubt its very authenticity by dint of the fact that they took you. And you sure as shit don't have the Philosopher's Stone or the key to world government.
Yeah.
But if they told you, like, listen, man, like, we're letting you in the door, but you're a private first class and you're going to have to read 800 fucking pages before we talk again,
Yeah. No, it lends legitimacy to it. And I kind of want to make it clear, right? Like, when I go and see things like, oh, Mathers, faked the Spengler letters, I don't say that to be like, oh, what a bunch of morons. Oh, this all must be totally fake. No, I say the opposite, right? Mathers was a genuine occultist. He was extremely well read. I don't personally subscribe to every tenet of the Golden Dawn, but I find it extremely interesting. And it's, in my opinion, one of the most impactful and concentrated magical efforts in the Western world in the 19th century, which when you put it that way is not too terribly great, but it's fascinating, right? It's fascinating. I mean, it's interesting, and it's worthwhile, right? Yeah.
Just to pop the big one, I mean, would it be fair to say that the Golden Dawn gave us Aleister Crowley?
Yep, 100%. We're getting there. I was wondering, it took over an hour.
But I want to bait the hook a little
Crowley.
bit. No, but I'm just trying to say to the audience, like we're making fun of these guys, obviously, a lot as a bunch of dweebs, and they are, for sure. But first of all, if you're listening to this podcast, you yourself are probably a dweeb. Both of the hosts are dweebs, I'll tell you that right now.
Big
so
time.
It's okay. You're safe here.
Yeah,
you're
we're in
safe
good
here.
company
it's okay.
here.
Yeah. But yes, there is a point to this, I swear to God. Thomas, continue.
Yeah, right. Well, and yeah, so I guess this is probably a good time to kind of develop the story a little more. I mean, we've covered exactly, or in broad detail, what they practiced, what they believed, and that's a good kind of framework for understanding like who they are as an order, and some of the stuff that is interesting in its own right, external from all of the actual story and the people and all of that stuff. I mean, it's really interesting. But let's get back to some of the things that happen. So things go great for several years. The order expands. I forget exactly, but they form new lodges in Edinburgh and then in different parts of London. So they have, I think, like 3-ish lodges. It's hard to know for sure, that have various levels of membership, right? And so they have, I would say, I think, was it around 100 people at most? It's hard to know exactly who was involved because it was a secret society. One of the oaths that you took upon being a neophyte is you don't talk about the Golden Dawn. Like, you can bring people in, but don't talk about it. Don't reveal members' identities because it was very important. Technically, like, they weren't, like, technically it was illegal. Like, witchcraft was still illegal in England at this time, and sorcery was forbidden and had all these penalties associated with it, right? But it's one of those things where
you would be drummed out of polite society if you weren't just a Christian, and probably you had to be an Anglican for the better half of society.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm writing a book that in part is about the life of Bertrand Russell, and the reason that Bertie, we love Bertie, and unfortunately both of Bertie's parents, his mother and his father, died before he was 2 years old, and there was a debate within his family about whether he would be sent to live with the Russells, i.e. on his father's side, or would be sent to live with his mother's, his maternal grandparents. And he ends up with his maternal grandparents. And the reason why, even though his father's side of the family sued, is because his grandfather and his father were both known back in the day, by which I mean the 1800s, as quote unquote free thinkers.
Don't want that.
Right. And they literally used the term free thinker as a synonym for atheist.
Like a pejorative. Yeah, they did. Exactly. What's what I said with like agnostic before. That's what that meant, right? But again, it's the polite term. You can't admit to being an atheist. You can't admit to being a sorcerer or a witch in Victorian England. You simply can't, right? And that ends up being kind of significant in not too terribly long here in terms of the timeline of the Golden Dawn. I forget exactly where we left off on that, but yeah, essentially, right. So this society is expanding. It's a secret society, but people join. Very Fight Club, right? They get more members at some point, and by at some point I mean around 1891. Mathers, S.L. McGregor Mathers, Freighter, SRMD, says, okay, this Golden Dawn thing, very cool. Love the rituals, love the initiations. I think it's great. But you know what would be even cooler is if there was a higher grade than the fourth degree, 4 = 7 Philosophus. He says, what if, he says to himself, there was 5 = 6. These according to their Kabbalistic attribution, these higher grades do exist, but they weren't permitted to initiate people to these higher grades because, this lady in Germany who gave us permission said we can't go above this grade. Well,
okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so this always fucking happens.
Oh yeah,
this happens. This happens in every single fucking religion. This happens in Scientology. This happens in Buddhism. In Buddhism, there are 3 major approaches, and I'm just going to use the same ending for all of them so it makes sense. The Hinayana, the Mahayana, and the Vajrayana. And of course, we don't use the term Hinayana anymore because Hin means little, and Yana means vehicle. So the Hinayana is the little or the lesser vehicle. The Maha means great. So the Mahayana, the greater vehicle. And then the Vajrayana, Vajra, depending on how it's translated, can mean thunderbolt or diamond vehicle. And as a result, like in the Theravadan, which is the term Hinayanists used to describe themselves, In that tradition, they stick to what the Buddha says in the Pali Canon, end of story. In the Mahayana tradition, there's another secret lecture given at this place called Vulture's Peak. The quote, the second turning of the Dharma wheel, where the Buddha essentially says, like, all right, look, I know I said all that other shit, but like, that was just warm-up material. All right, that was just for the rubes. Okay, that was like Jesus speaking in parables and then turning around to the disciples and being like, see, man, they'll never get it. You, I'll explain, but them, they don't know. Which is an esoteric statement that recurs throughout the New Testament, actually.
Yeah, it's true.
But yeah, so the Mahayana is, Zen and Chan Buddhism in China, as well as Tibetan and Nepalese
the
forms of
further
Buddhism.
extent one, I knew that much.
Yeah, with an emphasis on bodhisattvahood and willingly taking upon yourself like reincarnation, rather than just dipping immediately from samsara. And then later on, well, not necessarily later, but in a more fractional way, and especially in the yogas of Tibet, you get the Vajrayana, which is Tantra. And right. Which is a matter for specialists only, and one we will not be touching on right now.
But like they basically are like, we have to expand it in order to say the things we want to say, but we're still going to call it the old thing, Buddhism in this case, right? Golden Dawn, same story.
They're like, we got an esoteric shell of this exoteric, religion where on the outside, like, we've got this level of disclosure, and like we'll give you a glimpse, but on the inside, like, that's where we bust out the really hardcore drugs. That's where we start having sex with each other. Yeah, that's where we start plotting world domination.
You gotta
shit
get
like
in the
that.
club.
That's where that's where we start trying to summon the Antichrist. Shit like that. Yeah.
That's kind of where
stuff the normies can't handle.
Well, and see, that's kind of where Mathers goes with it, but not really. I mean, essentially what it was, Waite had his club, the Golden Dawn. Mathers wanted his club, which was the second order of the Golden Dawn. So this is what he does. He basically says, I received a message, not necessarily, from Fräulein Sprengel, but also that this has been a claim the entire time. So what I'm about to say is what he had been claiming the entire time. This wasn't a new thing. But what he says is, I am in contact with the so-called secret chiefs. And he establishes...
here we go.
Yes. He establishes this... He continues to establish and embellish this cosmogony, I guess, if you will, is one way of putting it, right? Where he says, okay, well, the 0 through 4 level grades of Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn is the quote unquote outer order. Then you have the first order. Then you have the second order, which is the 5th, 6th, and 7th grades. Above that, the 8th and 9th and theoretical 10th grades, right, in the Golden Dawn formulation, these are the secret chiefs. These are people or they're really more entities, right, who have completely transcended material form. There's Kabbalistic, justifications and ramifications and reasoning behind why he says it this way. I'm not going to get into it at this point, but essentially Mathers was the only guy who had, seen the golden tablets, or for him specifically, was in contact with the secret chiefs. And they were the ones instructing him and giving him leave, because this was very important. All the fucking paperwork had to be in order. Like, the paperwork was so goddamn important. And it was in the justification for this. It's like, it is important. Like, you need to have, you can't, as a 3 = 8 practicus, just do the ritual to initiate yourself into the 4 = 7 philosophist grade. No way. You need to be initiated by someone at that level or higher so that you can gain access to the secret knowledge. Because,
doesn't count, bro. Doesn't count. You did it yourself. You did it on your own. Doesn't count.
This is like the entire... and this is kind of where Masonry comes in. Yeah, I know, exactly. It's because Masonry's kind of like that, right? Where it's like you have a grade, You must be initiated into the next grade where more secrets, air quoting here, secrets will be revealed to you. And that's what they did, where they're like, okay, these are the papers this is the homework for neophytes, this is the homework for zealoters, that sort of thing. Well, eventually, what happens when you got to go higher? So Mathers claims sole exclusive contact with the secret chiefs and establishes the second order of the Golden Dawn, where he becomes the name of this organization, which is distinct from the regular Golden Dawn. It's called the Rosier Rubae et Aureae Crucis, which translates to, translates to the Rose of Ruby and the Cross of Gold, the RR et AC. And Mathers takes on a different name. His inner order motto then becomes DDCF, Dio Duce Comite Ferro.
Dude, this is where Crowley got it. You know, they ate different pen names, and yeah,
it is where Crowley got it, though. That's the thing, and he's going to come into play relatively soon. We're getting there, right? So Mathers creates the second order. Says, I've got contact with the secret chiefs. I have permission to make the second order. I can initiate people into the level of 5 = 6 and that sort of thing, right? So what's really interesting to me about this, at this point, Mathers sits down and he basically like creates a brand new ritual, because he didn't actually get it from, he wasn't in contact with anybody. Well, I mean, if you believe he was in contact with the secret chiefs, listener, fine. Yeah, you can believe that. From my perspective, he created the 5 = 6 and the portal rituals, which are really interesting. Mathers had this fascination with Rosicrucianism and specifically with Christian Rosenkreuz. Like, again, another topic that could totally be deeply delved into, but essentially mythological figure from occult history. And he's like, that's the guy. Like, this is the step over he is the step over the threshold in this ceremony, right? I mean, so part of the ceremony involves typically Mathers, but whoever was the highest grade at present and in the initiation ritual to the fifth degree of the Golden Dawn. He would be lying in this tomb and dressed up had his arms crossed in the pose of Osiris with the crook and the flail, classic pharaonic imagery there. And they would go and see, hey, look at this guy, and he would speak. It's extremely dramatic. I mean, talk about theater, kids. But what I found interesting is at this time, Mathers works his ass off to create what he calls the vault in their ritual space. And they ended up making a couple of them, but they were these like dedicated ritual chambers specifically for initiating people into the second order. And according to accounts, they were beautiful. Like, they were unbelievably well constructed with like different colors and all this occult imagery. Oh man, they put work into it.
You gotta have a good chamber. I mean, how can you call yourself a real occult organization if you're initiating people in a fucking broom closet?
And Mathers and his wife made it by hand. Like, and it's pretty, like, accounts of it are pretty remarkable, that it's like he put the work in it. And this is kind of why Mathers is an interesting figure. He seems sort of benign now, and for a long time he sort of was. He becomes a little bit more of a bad role model later on, though. But it's such an interesting, to me, he's an interesting character analysis, because I think William Butler Yeats has this quote, and he puts it best when he says that Mathers was a man of much learning but little scholarship, which I gotta say, that's a banger of a line. So there you go. That's Yeats' opinion of Mathers, which I don't know. I think is pretty accurate. Like, I like that. It's it gives a nice insight in a very short amount of time into what kind of person he was. At least, you know what I mean? Where it's like, well, extremely knowledgeable, but intellectually maybe not all the way there. But yeah, so at any rate, this is the guy who he's basically like, I'm in contact with the secret chiefs, establishes the second order, starts initiating people into his second order. And that goes fine, right? Like, Wescott basically said, cool, do your thing, man. I just want a fun, like, again, I want a fun occult club. You want to be super into the intricacies of magical practice, knock yourself out. And he was fine with it. The other thing is that Wescott was a very, relatively speaking, easygoing guy, where he was gonna go along to get along. He's like, okay, Mathers wants to do this, it's not hurting anything, fine. Officially, Wescott was in charge of the Golden Dawn. Like, officially, he had the title. He had some fancy title, but he was in charge of what became the outer, or which was then the First Order, Outer Order, same thing. And then Mathers becomes the head of the Inner Order, Second Order, same thing. So Mathers is like making these moves to put himself at kind of the top of the pecking order, which Wescott obliges him because he's like, okay, fine. And again, for a little bit long, a couple more years, that goes fine. It's all fine until 1897. And 1897 is when shit really fucking kicks off in terms of the problems that the Golden Dawn has. So for some context, so a bit more history, Mathers, technically, I think he had various jobs, but he was kind of a broke bitch most of the time. And his entire
Relatable.
life, yeah, right. His entire lifestyle was essentially funded by a woman named Annie Horniman. And she was like a wealthy heiress, socialite type who was in the Second Order and would basically just give him a bunch of money all the time. And no, literally,
This
I mean,
also happened to Crowley.
this happened to Crowley multiple times. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was kind of his MO to find like wealthy women and be like, I'm an occult fucking master. You're going to be you're going to be my scarlet woman and the greatest, most important person in my life until you don't have any money left. And I'm gonna like leave you in Libya or something like that. That's Crowley's MO. Mathers basically was just like, it's convoluted, and I can't even begin. I won't get into the minutia, but Mathers and Horniman have this falling out, right? Over essentially like okay, Annie Horniman was kind of like a tight ass by Golden Dawn standards at the very least, where she really liked being in other people's business. She liked knowing what was going on. Mathers essentially just saw her as a threat to his authority and said, you're out of here, but give me the rest of the money you were going to give me. And it's this whole messy back and forth where like money gets involved. There was another member who was, and here's the thing. Annie Horniman was like fine giving him money because like she had a bunch of money. She's like, okay, fine. But there was another guy that I forget his name that Mathers basically was like, hey, if you give me a bunch of money, I want to like publish this translation of the workings of Abramelin and the Mage, which did eventually end up materializing after like just an unbelievable amount of bullshit, including he got his manuscript stolen while he was in Paris, and the guy just fucking lost his mind because
That's why you
he wanted
always
his
make
money
a
back.
Google Drive backup.
Yeah, that's
that
right.
guy
Yeah,
was a
don't
fucking
leave your
idiot.
only. Well, and again,
Just
it's like,
put it
did
on a
he
USB
actually?
drive, dude.
Well, did Mathers actually lose the manuscripts? Did they even exist? We will never know. But it's the whole thing. So money got involved, and it got messy.
It's hard to talk about these guys is because, most of them are, if we're using the polite term, fabulists, and if we're using the not polite term, serial liars.
Yeah.
People that I don't want to say are compulsive liars or even, pathological liars, like people that can't help it. But people that clearly are like, yeah, I'll make up some shit every once in a while,
right,
just to keep the gears greased and keep this shit on the track.
And
because you can't start a religion by saying me and my friend had a book club and realized we had a few of the same ideas and decided to write them down. You have to be like, oh, the fucking Emerald Tablet of Hermes says so. Oh, okay.
Well, and that was exactly what Mathers did. I mean, he would receive transmissions from the secret chiefs every so often, basically telling, like, here's the thing. when he expelled Annie Horniman like completely from the entire Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, he said, "I didn't want to do it, but the secret chiefs told me to do it." Like, he
Oh,
didn't
dude,
even
that
just
is
say,
the
"Yeah, I
best.
know." He didn't
My
even say like,
imaginary friends made me. Okay,
right.
okay, right.
He's like, "Oh,
You
it
can
broke my
always
heart to do it, but they said she just wasn't the right thing for this order." And it's like, fuck you. What an asshole.
That's what John Kelly said about fucking John Dee's wife, by the way. Since we mentioned John Dee, right?
Mhm.
So John Dee, just picture Gandalf there. That's John
Done.
Dee. And he was the court magician, court sorcerer for Queen Elizabeth I of England. And he thought he could talk to angels. And he invented an entire language called Enochian, or to be more honest, not more honest, but more faithful to John Dee's version of events, the angels taught him Enochian.
Of course. Yeah.
And the problem was that Dee could contact the angels and could receive the Enochian writing, but he couldn't, except in brief flashes, apparently decipher it. And so he needed a scryer. He needed someone that could read and decipher this language. So he took on this guy who was a known con man named John Kelly.
It was Edward Kelly.
Edward Kelly, thank you.
Yeah, that's it.
Yes, Edward Kelly. And after not much time, and they had set up working for King Frederick of Brandenburg, Prussia, I believe, or the some Bavarian prince had put them up, and they were working on the transmutation of lead into gold, astrological charts for the royal courts. That was very popular. Get the horoscope for the princess. And then in their real spare time, what they were really into was, let's talk to these angels in Enochian. And so Edward Kelly talks to one of the angels and he says, "Hey man, I am totally not into this, but the angels really want me and your wife to fuck."
Yep.
And John Dee was like, "Well, I'm really not into that either, but I mean, if the angels said
it, man, what can you do?"
We're already
completely
believing in him this much, so and then it was done.
And again, yeah. No, that's a fascinating story, and I'd love to learn more about it. Perhaps potential topic for future episodes of Bad Role Models, because those guys were...
Well, I just want to shout out something, which is going back to what'd you say? A man of great learning but little scholarship. Yeah, this is a problem that plagues esoteric writers and occult writers, which is that they're smart people and they read books, but they don't have university training. And they don't really understand citations or how the fields they're operating in, like religious studies, linguistics, anthropology, psychology.
Critical
they don't really
thinking
understand.
Is not a required skill. Let's put it that way.
And they don't have either the patois or, frankly, the discipline to like actually get things right consistently in print. But one guy that does, who is a practicing occultist, who is alive, by the way, is Jason Louv, Louv. He has a podcast called Ultra Culture, and he basically wrote a doctoral dissertation on John Dee called John Dee and the Empire of Angels. And it is an awesome fucking book, and he is an awesome fucking guy who has much learning and much scholarship. End of transmission.
I'd be really interested in reading that. That does sound fascinating, or listen to his podcast. Why not? But well, good. Yeah. So yeah, essentially you summed it up quite well. Mathers is basically saying, I mean, he immediately, once people are obviously buying into it, he's throwing the weight of the secret chiefs around, where he's like, they told me to do this and they told me to do that. As far as I know, he doesn't fuck anyone's wife, but I'm sure it's not impossible. Who knows, essentially. But one thing I should kind of mention too is that John, this to me is very fascinating about Mathers. Sorry, Mathers is that his he had a couple of interesting personality quirks. One of apart from being a massive nerd, he was really into reconnecting with his Scottish ancestry. I guess it was kind of trendy at the time in Victorian England to be like, I'm descended from this Scottish family, actually. But he took it to the extreme, like McGregor Mathers. Like, he gave himself the McGregor name because he's like, yeah, I'm descended from the McGregors, which who the fuck knows if that's true? But at some point he started
He's like,
wearing
I've got my tartan and my coat of arms.
No, yeah, he
and
started
my
just wearing
heraldic
kilts all the
emblems
time.
and
Like, yeah. No, he eventually that became, I mean, for the latter half of his life, that was his entire personality, which to me sounds like the one thing I can say about Mathers, he sounds fucking insufferable. He sounds unbelievably insufferable. But I'll give him this much. His wife was also a member of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, and she was into it. I mean, I don't know how much she knew about Springle letters or any of that stuff, but she was all fucking about the Golden Dawn. She's also really good. She was a really good artist, so she helped create the vault. She did herself a lot of the painting. They also never had sex, which she admits in a letter to Annie Horniman, because they were very good friends. Her Mather's wife and Annie Horniman were very good friends, and she was the one who was able to convince her to give them money all the time, right? And she admits in a letter, she's like, Freighter SRMD and I forget the exact phrasing she used, but she's like, we never have any impure contact or something like that. It's like, great. It's like,
this is really not helping the case that, you know, this is a gay thing.
I mean, I don't know, man. I don't reject that at all.
Think about the oppression of religion, right? Where, you know, being openly anti-Christian in this society would force you into a very bad social reality. It'd be a major handicap.
Yeah. Look no further than what's his face, the Byron.
Right, and secondly, and this also relates to Byron, Grindr had not been invented yet. And you know, the rules were, shall we say, a little stricter about homosexuality.
Yeah.
Namely, that if you were gay with anyone that mattered, they would throw you in prison and maybe castrate you, like they did to Oscar Wilde, or Alan Turing, right?
Yeah.
And
it wasn't until it wasn't decriminalized until like the 70s or something. Wasn't that there was an anti-sodomy law in the book in Texas until, can you guess, 2011 or something? Oh, okay.
2003.
Sure.
Yeah,
I knew that much.
Lawrence versus Texas, another fabulous Wikipedia page about forcing Texas to stop throwing gay people in jail in 2003. But yeah, in Britain at the time, if you were gay with someone and they mattered, like they were the Earl of whatever, you were fucked. I mean, you because they would put it out there as you had destroyed that guy's reputation. Yeah. This is what happened to Oscar Wilde.
No, I don't reject
this all makes sense. I mean, we've got fruity guys to begin with. It's the Victorian era, right? This guy's not fucking his own wife.
Yeah, and what I was saying in the beginning is, it's like, I could not, in my research, find any hard evidence that there was anything like that specifically going on. It tracks. It's totally logical. I mean, and it's not, and it's also even probable that was going on. I mean, Crowley definitely took it that way. To him, like, the highest attainment of the highest possible attainment of magical perfection was anal sex, right? Whether or not he got that from the Golden Dawn is genuinely anyone's guess, honestly. I mean, I'm sure there's probably stuff, I know there's stuff I haven't read that might elucidate it one way or the other, but yeah, I mean, it's good logic and it tracks. I just don't have any evidence for it, and not any that I found in my research, which, to be fair, was like a couple books and my personal knowledge. But anyhow, refocusing on, it's 1897, right? Annie Horniman has been expelled from the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn by the secret chiefs, voiced by Mathers, which, by the way, I think you're going to love this one. Annie Horniman, her title officially in the Golden Dawn was sub-praemonstratrix of the Isis Urania temple. Isis Urania was the main London temple for the Golden Dawn, but sub-praemonstratrix is a mouthful, honestly.
That's got to be a total neologism. There's
Oh,
no way
yeah.
that's a word. But
There's no
I
way
will
that
say
existed before this, or if it did.
I will say that the Isis Urania temple, that's an awesome thing to name a temple.
Oh, it's super.
I'm completely about it.
It's fucking badass. And eventually the Golden Dawn becomes known as the Stella Matutina, which is also a sick fucking name, in my opinion, at least. Isis Urania is probably better, but still. At any rate,
But
so
yeah. I mean, so just to put this in plain English, Mathers's imaginary friends have kicked out the lady that pays the rent.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. So Annie Horniman eventually does get back in the good graces of the Golden Dawn, but she never gets back into Mather's good graces, which we'll kind of get into shortly here, because in the same year, 1897, a lot of churn was sort of happening, right? I mean, obviously the Horniman affair was a big mess. Mathers was, I mean, perpetually out of money. He was traveling a lot. He was rarely there in London. So Mathers really liked Paris. He ended up spending a ton of time in Paris. And the reason that we kind of know all of this stuff is because he expelled her when he wasn't even there. He basically just wrote a letter saying, "You're done, bye," because he was not even there. He's in Paris, dude.
You're donezo.
You're done, brother.
You're done.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Right. So around this time, kind of in the later part of 1897, another big blow happens to the Golden Dawn. So Wescott, as you might recall, the leader of the Outer Order of the Golden Dawn, was a Royal Crown coroner, right? Which was like a public government position, right? Sure, he dealt with dead bodies, but it's like a important job, right? And there was this scandal that happened where he was named, and just him, on this group of papers that were found in a taxi cab. So someone had left Golden Dawn like neophyte manuscripts in a taxi cab, which were then found by someone, passed to the press, naming Wescott. And it wasn't a huge scandal, but essentially someone told his boss, where they're like, "Hey, here's this weird fucking magic shit we just found, and it's got Wescott's name on it, and that guy deals with dead bodies all day. Is he like a creepy fucking magician performing, like imaginations ran wild?" And his bosses basically told Wescott, where they're like, "Listen, dude, you cannot be a member of this." They said, because that is not a good look. You can either quit and be publicly shamed, or you can you can cease all involvement with this Golden Dawn. And he chose the latter. He's like, "Well, I don't want to lose my job," and almost completely withdrew from the Golden Dawn. I mean, he stepped down as the leader of the Outer Order. He didn't attend any rites. I think what I read was that he still like would hang out with them, with like other members he was close with, and had like little study groups and stuff. But he never he pretty much never showed up back at the temples or any of these places again. I mean, it was a big to do. Now, essentially, a couple years later, during a different and much larger scale debacle, Mathers goes on public record in a courtroom where they question him about this event, and they say, "Okay, are you a member of the Golden?" There's a transcript that I read that's like, the solicitor asks him, "Are you a member of the Hermetic Order of Golden Dawn?" "Yes." "Do you do all sorts of witchcraft, sorcery, and black magics?" "Yes." And then he said, "Do you know anything about these manuscripts that were left in the cab?" Because it just happened to be part of the inquest that they were asking him about this event. And he goes, I might know about them, yeah." And they say, "Wouldn't it be really convenient that someone, the only other guy in charge of the Golden Dawn, happened to be slandered by these?" He goes, "Things happen." Like he like all well, yeah, he all and he all but admits to basically planting these manuscripts with Wescott's name in this cab to depose him, because he knew that if word got out, he would have to, yeah, he would basically be forced with that choice. And it's essentially a power grab for Mathers at this point in 1897, where he's
So
like,
I'm confused
yeah,
though. Like, why
sure.
why did Mathers want to force out Wescott?
Dude, because he's an asshole. And that's the thing. It's weird because it's like
He
there
forced out the
wasn't,
chick that pays the money, and then he forces out the
yeah,
guy that started it all.
because he wanted
Fuck
to
him,
be.
asshole.
I know. He is an
What the
asshole. I know.
fuck?
That's what I've been saying. When I said earlier he's a complicated character, this is what I mean, right? It's like he has positive qualities, right? He's, like I said, extremely well read, very intelligent, but then he goes and does this stuff. I mean, it's like if you sit down and find copies and read his letters, it's like he's got this need
Also,
to be in
about the
control.
irony. Think about the irony of like, oh, we're gonna make a secret society. We're gonna swear on all that is holy and pure, that we will keep our identities, secret at all times, so that we can freely practice our faith. And then literally leaking your best friend's name
Yeah.
to the press, knowing
Yeah.
that it would force like a huge fucking scandal and
Yeah.
a crisis,
Oh,
right?
I know.
And it's like, yeah. Anyway,
Dude, no, believe me. Like I don't know. Truth be told, there might be a good explanation in the sense of like Mathers might have had a real rationale for this other than just I want to be the only guy in charge. But from my
oh
understanding,
well, they
he
always come
wanted
up
to.
with one.
Well,
They always come up with some
yeah, but
reason.
I'm just saying, like, precipitating events, right? Where it's like, oh, they had some other sort of falling out, or Wescott was pushing back on something. It's possible. I don't know. I mean, someone would have to actually write a dissertation on the history of the Golden Dawn to get that information, and that man is not me. From my understanding, really, it was just Mathers being like, huh, I want to be the head honcho. I've already got control of the entire second the inner order, the second order, and I want control of the whole thing, right? Because then Mathers steps right up and says, okay, well, I'm in charge of everything now. And that was pretty much everything. That was most of what happened in 1980 in 1887 181897. That's the year that all of that went down, and there was a lot of churn. And that is kind of the kickoff for some really fucking major bullshit, because this is where Aleister Crowley enters the picture. And if you know anything about Crowley, shit stirring was the name of the game with him. He could not avoid stirring shit. So for some context yeah, go ahead.
Well, okay. I mean, we're pushing the 2 hour mark on the recording. So let's plant Crowley as being out there for part 2.
Oh, okay. I could probably
and
finish it up in like 20 minutes, half an hour.
well, I also want to talk about Blavatsky. I mean, are you against a part 2?
I don't that was like the majority of the stuff that I had like prepared. I could probably get through it without missing too much detail and tell the rest of the story, because there's not a lot left. It's mostly just talking about Crowley's
then
involvement.
let's just wrap it all up here. So
Cool.
you can ask me about Blavatsky now,
Yeah.
or we can do that at the very end. You can finish the Golden Dawn, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, well, I think this is a good this might be a good time to kind of talk about Blavatsky, right? Because Crowley's gonna show up, shit's gonna go down, and then it just sort of fades out in some ways. Some interesting stuff happens that can just be briefly touched on, but yeah, I mean, so tell me, like, I guess what you think. Like, what connections do you see between Golden Dawn and Blavatsky? I mean, we've covered some stuff, but I'd like to hear your thoughts kind of more in detail on that.
Well, the connection is that they were essentially pursuing the same project using slightly different methods. So Blavatsky, in her book The Key to Theosophy, and so the word it's another neologism. It's another case of making something up straight out of your ass and then claiming it's existed for 10,000 years. So that's what Blavatsky does with Theosophy, which is a synthesis, as it sounds, of theology, the study of divinity or religion, and then philosophy, the love of wisdom. So what Blavatsky purports to propound is the universal mystery religion that lies like the seed at the root of all of the world's true religions. It is a version of what scholars call perennialism.
I was going to say, it
or
sounds like
or
a lot like
traditionalism.
Huxley's perennial philosophy.
Yeah, or during the Renaissance, there was a doctrine called the Prisca Theology, which meant the same thing, right? A sort of eternal natural religion that was based on a compendium of experiences gained through meditative exercises, yoga, prayer, fasting, and preserved in, dialogues like the Corpus Hermeticum, like you mentioned, the Poimandres, and then retained in hidden or coded form in things like the parables of Jesus, or the way the Buddha breaks out from the earlier doctrine of suffering, patience, and so forth in his Theravadan aspect in the Pali Canon, and then later into the more florid and vast cosmos filled with deities and bodhisattvas and so forth that you get in the Mahayana and the Vajrayana especially. And so what Blavatsky wanted to do with the Theosophical Society, which is her version of the Golden Dawn, an organization that she found some rich guy to support and was able to, keep the attention of a lot of very rich, famous, important people, and did herself live a really fascinating life where she is clearly one of the world's great travelers in this time period. She's been everywhere. And so the Theosophical Society has 3 objectives according to Blavatsky. And for my money, they're all pretty nice objectives. The first objective is to create a universal brotherhood of all mankind, independent of race, creed, color, sex, class, all of it, right? A truly universal doctrine that can be embraced and understood equally by all. The second is to encourage in the West the study of Eastern philosophical and religious texts, things like the Bhagavad Gita, or the Ramayana, or the Tao Te Ching, or the Dhammapada, or the Upanishads, things that were just beginning to sort of trickle their way into Europe, but were still kind of cultural curiosities. And so as a result, Blavatsky became one of the first and most influential expositors or interpreters of Buddhism, especially in the West. Much to our chagrin in some cases, because she does not have what a scholar would consider an accurate understanding of Buddhism, or her own version is so idiosyncratic, it's basically its own thing. So that's objective number 2. And objective number 3 is to probe into the mysteries of nature and to understand and develop what she calls the psychic powers of man, right? What she would later talk about as clairvoyance, clairaudience, prophecy, and foresight, and that's the objective of the Theosophical Society. And I'm like, okay, human rights, universal brotherhood, ode to joy, that'd be nice. The second point, making Europeans care about the Bhagavad Gita, sounds good, sounds nice. Third thing, inquiring into the mysteries of nature and realizing the powers of the human mind through meditation and yoga. Great, fantastic. But then she starts talking about how, there's 7 different selves living within you, and there's an animal soul, but then also the animal body, and then there's the conceptual ego and the psychological ego, and then there's the spirit, which is different from the soul, and then there's the spirit that remembers your past lives and the spirit that doesn't, and then there's the divine spark, which can, and you're just like, oh god, okay, like it, and it flies out into the most uh the most mealy mouthed and conceptually macerated esoteric speculation that you can imagine. She's talking about how there's 7 Earths that are all different from each other, and that when you get to the afterlife, this is exactly what it will be like, and that reincarnation works in exactly this way, and so forth and so on. And you're like, okay, like this is clearly the result of a significantly overheated mind, a mind that is very, very well educated, and often quite strikingly written, uh, and also teetering on the verge of schizophrenia and madness. And you know, she begins life, social life, that is, trying to refute the spiritualists, trying to go to the people that are doing these seances and looking into these black mirrors and stuff, and being like, look, you're not talking to dead people. What you're talking to are higher selves. You're talking to essentially versions of yourself, or versions of your conscious embedding that go beyond the material plane, and which emanate in some inscrutable gnostic terrain of pure light. What she calls in one section of her book, the palace of love. And so she is somebody that is trying to run well actually on guys that talk to ghosts.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, Blavatsky is truly a fascinating figure. I mean, she's I think I agree with you certainly, where it's like she's unbelievably well traveled, unbelievably intelligent, and unbelievably difficult to understand and wackadoo sometimes. I mean, it really runs the gamut, right? From stuff that seems like well expounded theology and spirituality and occult, and genuine occultism, to guys living in a log cabin writing about Lemuria, right? I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
it's a pretty wild gamut that she runs, and I think kind of tying that in with the Golden Dawn, it's like they sort of ended up being parallel, right? So like by the time 1897, all this stuff is going down, there had been some contention. I guess some members of the Theosophical Society who had joined the Golden Dawn were, I don't know, they didn't get along with the rest of them. Some of them did, but there was like tension where the Golden Dawn people are like, well, if you're like a big, um, you know, TS member, we're not gonna be super welcoming, or we're not gonna let you join, or that sort of thing. And philosophically speaking, just to sort of to pivot a little bit, right? I think that they do. Obviously, there's no shortage of thinking, especially by Mathers, right? Of things that are inspired by Eastern religions, Blavatsky for sure, and thinking like this. I mean, it does end up becoming this sort of big melting pot of occult studies and expounding on philosophies, right? And it's sort of
yeah.
this interesting, but the difference is that the Theosophical Society, it's still around today, and Golden Dawn isn't. They didn't last very long. I mean, they people kept the name Golden Dawn going for, I mean, the over a century, right? But it basically be these like disparate groups being like, we're reviving the Golden Dawn. We're doing it all the same way they did, and it's very much so. It's first as tragedy, then as farce, right? I mean, these people who have no real connection to it coming in and saying we're doing this now, but not the same thing. And there was no line of initiation or continuation of that in any practical way, mostly just in a philosophical or abstract way. Theosophical Society is still going strong. I mean, it's like they still have, I don't know what they would call them, temples or study groups or lectures or whatever they have. They still have them all over the world. I mean, there are people who are actively call themselves theosophers or theosophists. I don't know the exact term. I think I
Yeah,
don't know.
I mean,
Go ahead.
well, I mean, Blavatsky is definitely an ambivalent character. I mean, for me now, I've mostly made fun of her, which is maybe a pattern I should break out of. But there are a lot of things about Blavatsky that I think are kind of amazing. For starters, she was one of the most influential and independent women of her time and place,
Yeah.
1880s and 1890s. She was very well read, even more well traveled. She was a classically trained musician who performed with Clara Schumann. She could read and write in multiple languages, including Tibetan. And, she had a number of beliefs that were extremely ahead of the time. For example, she was a Darwinian and she embraced the theory of evolution. And she said that the fact that mankind has a common origin implies the equality of the races.
Yeah, one of the
And she
seven
then
races.
Yeah, I was just about to say.
Yeah.
And then she immediately undermines any credit you give her for thinking that by spelling out that there are 7 seed races,
Yep.
Including the Hyperboreans, the Aryans, and of course the Atlanteans,
Naturally.
the Lemurians,
Yeah.
and then like 1 or 2 have a name that I can't even fucking remember because I'm sure she just made it up herself.
Yeah. Well, and that sort of ties in, I think, just a tidbit that's worth mentioning is the Theosophical Society ends up with a spin-off, right? In the 20s, early 20s, where it's Ariosophy or Armanism or whatever you want to, I forget the exact term, but where basically these guys come in and they say, Theosophy is really cool. What if we just took the part where they talk about the different races and made that the whole thing and then said Aryans were the best, right? I mean, if you want to talk about what makes a fascist and before fascism exists, I mean, that's a good way of looking about it. If you want to look at the traditionalists, right, and Ariosophy, that sort of thing.
There is esoteric fascism for sure. Yeah. I mean, you see it with Julius Evola. You see it with Himmler and his obsession with occultism and ritual. Like at one point, the German High Command was trying to find British submarines through pendulum scrying. They would set up, over maps, right? Where's the fucking British fleet today? Let's ask the pendulum.
Well, if it works, I mean, not that I think it did. Obviously, it didn't work out so well for them, but I mean, if you want to, I guess if you just want to, but if you want to talk about I mean, and that's just part of the thing that's that's one of the historical facets that's interesting to me. I mean, obviously, you can talk about socioeconomic and political and philosophical, contributions to the rise of fascism in Germany in the 20s and 30s, right? But this is a part of it, and it's and there was a real mystical bent to a big portion of Nazi ideology, right? I mean, it's pretty easy to say our group is of people divided by race is better than your group of people, your race of people, that sort of thing. I mean, that's not like a totally novel concept, but to have it articulated in a truly mythological way, I think is a really heavily contributing factor. It is just personal.
Yeah. I mean, there are, it's a matter of taste among practicing Nazis, to what extent you want to embrace like an entire alternative history of the universe in order to be a Nazi. For example, there's like these 2 different Nazi propagandists, right? There's the one we all know, Joseph Goebbels, who is a pretty like you could call him a down-to-earth Nazi, where he just kind of ran with like, yeah, the Germans and the Jews, they're different races. They had different historical conditions. They're enemies. They're going to fight. The Germans are going to wipe out the Jews. End of story. Whereas someone like Alfred Rosenberg in a book like The Myth of the 20th Century, argues for basically Atlantis level, like revisionism, right?
Oh, sure.
Like an entire alternative history of the world, and people like, Himmler, obsessed with the occult and the Aryan connection to the occult. During World War II, they're sending out scouting expeditions in Tibet and Nepal to try and find, mysterious artifacts or establish whether there's a connection between Nazism and Tibetan Buddhism, where they're sending like the Indiana Jones shit about the Nazis looking for the Ark of the Covenant. There's a lot of shit like that sort of, did take place. The only difference is they didn't find the Ark of the fucking Covenant.
Yeah. I mean, well, obviously, that they had the spear of Longarius or whatever, and then
the spear of Longinus,
spear of Longinus, and then Patton takes it over, and then he dies, that sort of thing. Naturally, these are real things that happen, but I guess kind of tying it even further back with the Golden Dawn. No, really. So you've got this concept of this sort of Aryan, highly racist bent of theosophy that some people created and does have real influence in Nazi ideology. And you've got that on one side. And on the other side is after the Nazis took power, they went through and they said, they banned Masonry, they banned all of these various groups of an organization, including the Golden Dämmerung, which was the Golden Dawn. And we'll get to exactly why they even knew the fuck about the Golden Dawn when we kind of do the wrap up a little bit. But yeah, the Nazis banned the Golden Dawn as an organization. And that was one of the things where they would make, German citizens take questionnaires and try and root out instructions. Are you a member of the Golden Dawn? Obviously, they found nobody in Germany was a member of the Golden Dawn because it didn't fucking exist in Germany. It was a British organization. It was an English thing. If you recall, theoretically, the letters from Fräulein Sprengel, the Soror SDA, she was based in Germany. At some point, she dies, according to Mathers. But then, did she actually die? It's just this becomes this whole convoluted fantasy. Well, yeah,
this is
they wind
another
up
way.
On different sides of World War II. Ironically,
awkward.
No kidding.
Yeah. And this is something that Blavatsky also does, which is the ascended masters, right? The idea that like there's the sages are up there, they're in the ninth heaven, they're chilling in their perfect palace of eternal light, and if you can just figure out their telephone number, you can talk to them, right? And you can draw on the wisdom of the ascended masters. Now, in the course of reading H.P. Blavatsky's Wikipedia page, there was a blue link for one of these ascended masters, and I clicked on it, and it's amazing.
Oh, God, I'll bet.
Yeah, so the name, this sounds like something from a Thomas Pynchon novel. The name of the ascended master is Master Hilarion.
Hell yeah.
Here we go. Master Hilarion is considered a saint within the I Am movement, one of the masters of the ancient wisdom, and in the Ascended Master teachings is one of the Ascended Masters, also collectively called the Great White Brotherhood. He is considered to be the Chohan, Lord of the Fifth Ray, and then another blue link, C7 rays. And like this is the
Would you
Wikipedia.
Like to learn more?
Yeah, the Wikipedia on this is deep. So, Theosophists believe that Master Hilarion was incarnated as the Apostle Paul of Tarsus and the Neoplatonic philosopher Iamblichus. Some have believed that he was also the Christian saint Hilarion. And then later it says, after somebody noticed that there was an overlap in the life of Iamblichus and Hilarion, like that they lived at the same time, there was apparently a cope where she said, Various traditions such as Hindu and Tibetan Buddhism hold that it is possible for the spiritually advanced to have more than one incarnation happening at the same time.
Hell yeah.
You can be multiply incarnated, like parallel.
Listen,
right?
If you're an ascended master, why not? Is there any logical reason that the ascended masters cannot do that? Tell me, please. I'd love to hear your rationale for why that can't happen.
Yeah, so it says, it goes further. I mean, they really just created their own patron saints. In the Ascended Master teachings, he is the hierarch of the hierarch of the Brotherhood of Truth in the etheric plane over the island of Crete. Hilarion is said to assist the scientists and spiritual leaders of the world with the flame of truth. It is believed in the Ascended Master teachings that before the Master Hilarion took over the Chohanship of the Fifth Ray, Lord Ling fulfilled that function. So like this feels like reading the fan wiki for a TV show about like some like sword and sorcery universe.
Yeah, it reads like the Elder Scrolls wiki. Actually, it does. No, I'm not kidding. It does. Yeah. Well,
anyway, Blavatsky, she has her moments. She argues that the root of all evil is selfishness, and that religions have failed because they have basically forgotten this fact and have created a bunch of moral imbeciles, and they don't take their own core message seriously, and that the essence of theosophy is living for truth and living in service to others. And I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, I mean, yeah, awesome,
and that's what makes
the shit about Lord Ling and the flame of truth and the etheric plane over Crete.
and that's what makes this topic, this entire subject of this field of study so interesting. So you get these people who are genuinely like, when you boil it down, they're good and interesting. Like when you boil down the Golden Dawn, it's like, here's a path to enlightenment or to higher knowledge, better knowledge of oneself and the universe, right? And again, I mean, if you want to talk like the Golden Dawn, for instance, like it accepted it was very important to them that men and women are equal in the eyes of this society. I mean, progressive in that sense, right? And very good. It's like you would say, yeah, that's great. Good on them for doing that. And then it's like, yeah, also I can talk to like invisible guys who tell me exactly what to do. And if I do anything you don't like, well, take it up with them. Oh, wait, you can't talk to them. And it's like, well, okay. You know what I mean? And it's just this sort of like discontinuity in this discord, in what it reads. It's the complexity that makes it interesting in my mind. But are you satisfied with to wrap up our conversations on Blavatsky and then get into the big C, the big Crowley, get his involvement in the Golden Dawn?
Yeah, my advice to you about Blavatsky, you being the audience about Blavatsky, is if you don't get around to reading her, it's not that big of a thing. There are a lot of esoteric reading lists that include Blavatsky, and maybe dip your toe in and see how you like the waters. But Blavatsky, really even more than the average occult writer, oscillates between a well-expressed and interesting sentiment that in a certain sense was well ahead of its time in its tolerance, syncretism, practicality, and generosity. It oscillates between statements like that and just outright schizophrenia, which in a funny way is what Aleister Crowley said about the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. He had a very memorable phrase for the Yoga Sutras, which I entirely disagree with, but it's interesting how he thought of them, which is the Yoga Sutras are almost entirely the ravings of a disordered mind, but within that there is a nugget of 24 karat gold. And that's actually what I would say about Crowley's writings.
Yeah, I was going to say
the Yoga Sutras are actually pretty much entirely 24 karat gold. Just my point of view. So yeah.
Well, speaking of Crowley, then, so at this point, right, we've had a little bit of shakeup in the Golden Dawn, but relatively, it's still going pretty strong. So about a year after all of this bullshit with Wescott and Horniman kind of gets wrapped up, Crowley joins. So Crowley, not going to get into his life story. You either know who he is or you don't. But he was a young man at this point, in his 20s still. He joins in November of 1898, and by May of 1899, so I mean, what's that, like 5-6 months later, he has already reached the highest grade of the outer order that he possibly can. Like, he speed ran initiation in the Golden Dawn. Big reason for that is because he was very good friends with two guys. One's Alan Bennett, who's a fascinating character in his own right. Eventually, he quits the Golden Dawn and literally just goes and becomes a Buddhist in like India or Tibet or something. He's like, fuck this Western bullshit. I'm going to the East where they actually know what they're talking about.
I'm going to the source.
No, he spent the rest
this.
of his life as a yogi, which is pretty cool. Alan Bennett's an interesting guy, and then G.C. Jones as well. But these guys, they like Crowley, and they immediately just take him under their wing, and they power level him, where they're like, you're gonna learn all of this shit. And Crowley was into it. He was so stoked, because this in a big way was the Golden Dawn was his first introduction into the world of ceremonial magic. And he's just like absorbing all of this information and doing these rituals and learning as much as he can. 5-6 months, he's like, all right, I'm ready to go. Induct me into the second order. He wants to be in the club. He wants to be in
give me the black belt.
Yeah, he wants that black belt. And the people at the Isis Urania Lodge, the chiefs there, so people like Florence Farr and others, they were like, no, Crowley, you're a bit of a loose cannon. You've also only been here for 6 months. You need to cool your jets. And so they rejected his request to be promoted into the second order. This was in 1899. Crowley did not like this, and if you know anything about him, wasn't going to stand for it. So he goes and does a bunch of running around. At this point, he goes and activates his becomes the Laird of Bolskine or Bolskine, and he gets his house on Loch Ness, I believe. And at some point, he makes around this time, he becomes very good friends with Mathers, and Mathers is living in Paris like full time at this point. So Crowley goes and visits him in Paris, and they're hanging out, talking about all sorts of cool bullshit. Also around this time, a couple people showed up to Mathers' house, and this is just sort of a side tangent. But they say, yeah, we're initiates of the Golden Dawn, but it's a lodge you've never heard of. But we seem to have misplaced all of our ritual papers. Could we borrow yours? And Mathers, being a fucking egotistical, arrogant son of a bitch, goes, yeah, sure, of course. You guys are sucking my dick. Of course you can have these papers. Sends them on their way. That'll come back into play later. But what's important right now is Crowley shows up to Paris. He goes, Mathers, those guys in London, they don't want to let me into the second order. Would you let me into the second order? And he goes, of course, dude, you're awesome. And you're also like loyal to me. Of course you can go into the second order. So Mathers initiates Crowley to the 5th degree into the second order. Crowley shows up back at the back up in London, and he's like, yeah, so I'm part of the second order now, and I can go and have all these privileges and can go to these secret meetings and stuff. And they're like, no, dude, we don't know you. We didn't let you in.
I asked Dad, though. I asked Dad. He said it was okay. Right. He signed the permission slip. Yeah. Like, I should be in good standing here.
They told him to fuck off. They're like, no, you can't. Sorry. It was at this point. So this is the point when shit really hits the fan. Like, if you want to look at the key turning point, Mathers sends a letter to the chiefs at the London Lodge, Isis Urania Lodge, and says, yeah, by the way, Wescott actually forged the Sorer SDA, the Sprengel letters. They freaked the fuck out, dude. They
Wow,
Where
he dabbed on him. He was
Dude.
just like, by the way,
Yeah.
fuck you. You know?
Yeah, he's like, oh, by the way, Wescott forged those, and they were like, holy shit. So they were like, okay, we're doing that. So they form a council, they start an inquest, they start interviewing people. Like they try to talk to Wescott, who's been gone for over a year at this point, or a couple of years at this point. And they're like, what do you know about this? And he's like, I'm not saying nothing. He doesn't want to piss Mathers off because it's this whole fucking thing. Like, essentially, you get a bunch of these nerds who are super committed to their cool club. It's like, you made it up? Dude, how could you have made it up? And it just spirals. Like, it just falls apart. And so like they form their own, like they totally reform the Golden Dawn. And like they're trying to figure out, wait, what is it that we were misled? This magical order that we were inducted to by some like couple schlubby dudes in London isn't like super ancient and mystical. Yeah, it's like mind-blowing for them. And so they're like, okay, well, if Mathers knew that Wescott forged the letters, which, by the way, Mathers was the one who forged the letters. If they're like, well, if Mathers knew, why didn't he say anything before now? It's been going on for like 12 years, and he just now is revealing that he knew that those letters were forged. They're like, fuck that guy. And at this point, they say, he's out. Like, they're not taking any orders from him. They're completely disloyal. Like, they essentially say, no, we're not having, there's nothing to do with him. We're just going to keep running. Because, by the way, Mathers wasn't paying for any of this shit. It was just one of the second order members who was like paying the rent on their temple, on the Isis Urania temple. And she's like, yeah, fuck that guy.
It's one of the requirements actually to have a religion is you've got to collect enough to at least pay rent on a temple.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like they had like dues that all went to the temple, but nothing went to Mathers to support him. I mean, they're like nothing officially did. It was just ended up being, he just found basically rich patrons who were members who would bankroll him. And then he alienated, so he didn't have any money. And so what the way this all kind of comes to an apex when the London Isis Urania Lodge has totally like disavowed Mathers, but Mathers is like, I want to fuck those guys. They can't tell me what to do with my secret society. He sends Crowley to the Isis Urania Lodge when all the members are out. Crowley convinces the landlord to let him in and ransacks the place, changes the locks, steals a bunch of shit, and is like, okay, yeah, like he takes control of the lodge from them. They come back, they come back later that day, and they're like, what the fuck? And they work it out with the landlord. It's like, that guy just like changed the locks. Look, this is the lady who pays the rent. Do what she says. And he's like, okay. They change the locks back.
Imagine being like, this fucking landlord, dude. Like...
No, because it gets better, right? The very next day, Crowley comes back and shows up, expecting the locks to still be there. He meets the landlord and I think Horniman and someone else, and Yates as well. Apocryphally, Yates kicks him down some stairs. Whether that's true, I like to think it's true. It's a lot more funny that way. Because, by the way, Crowley fucking hated Yates. He's like, Yates is jealous of how good of a poet I am.
Which is a totally absurd thing to say,
and eventually it became like an obsession of his where he's like, Yates is casting evil spells on me. It's just so ridiculous.
That would be how I would explain I'm not as good a poet as Yates. Is like, yeah,
he's casting evil spells on me.
Yeah. I could write a great poem if Yates would just stop cursing me.
Well, and at this point too, Yates is like, he actually becomes like the leader of the Second Order because he was one of the oldest members and extremely well respected. And this kind of new Golden Dawn without Mathers at the helm, I mean, they immediately start bickering and infighting too. Like that was a pretty obvious one that was going to happen. But so no, Crowley shows up the next day. He meets all these guys and they're basically like, fuck off. But the way he shows up, just thinking he's the hottest shit, I gotta read this description of him. And I think this comes from Waite. He goes, Crowley arrived wearing Highland dress, a black mask over his face, a plaid thrown over his head and shoulders, an enormous gold cross on his breast, and a dagger at his side. Wow. because by the way, in Mathers rubs off on Crowley in this way because Crowley was no, really,
Interesting
because
use of
Crowley
words.
became also super obsessed with his Scottish ancestry. That's why he became the Laird of Boleskine, which is in Scotland, because he's like, dude, yeah, being Scottish is great. Naturally, I am also Scottish too.
You know they were just looking for
Dude,
they were looking for the equivalent of the counterculture.
Dude, they
and
were
it just didn't
looking
fucking exist in
No,
Victorian England.
no,
They're
you know
like,
what it
what's
was?
the opposite? What's the opposite of Queen Victoria? Fucking Mel Gibson from Braveheart with his
Yeah,
face
no,
painted blue, screaming
it's
about freedom, running
it's
into battle naked with a giant fucking sword. And they're like, that is the side of the culture I want to associate with.
you know what it's more like? It's more like Elizabeth Warren claiming Native American heritage and then
Well, sure,
being
sure, it's fake
debated
in the sense that, yeah.
being debated into I love that she got debated into doing a DNA test and then revealed the results like 164th Native American. But it's like the same thing. It's like if she started wearing like traditional Native American garb and you know what I mean? It's just like it's highly comparable, very similar, at least in the psychological aspects of it. It's just, yeah, it's just one of those weird quirks of history where it's like, yeah, that was a thing. I don't know, but yeah. So to wrap it up, Crowley, they tell Crowley to fuck off. He threatens to sue them, and he goes to his lawyer and he's like, no, you're not suing them. This is just utterly
Hold on. I'm sorry.
stupid.
We skipped a
Yeah.
great part of this story,
yeah.
which is that there was like an actual fight, right? Like there was an actual physical altercation. And in one version of it that I've read, and
Yeah.
again, who the fuck knows, but in one version of it that I have read, Crowley was casting like fireball type
yeah.
curses and spells on them, you know, while trying to fight his way past them to get to the temple or whatever.
It definitely became one of those situations where it's like they definitely were there's a lot of different accounts of it, but yeah, I would say it's highly likely that they were uttering incantations of
They
malice
had a
directed
LARP.
at each other. Yeah, right.
They had a
That's the thing.
LARP fight. They had a LARP fight using poetry.
Right.
These
like,
fucking guys.
It's not like Crowley started like punching dudes. Let me in. It's my goddamn temple. I am allowed to be here. It's like, no, he's just like standing. And by the way, the temple was in one of those buildings located above like a shop. So they're not even in like the temple area. They're just like standing in this like store with a stairwell in the back that goes upstairs to their temple. Just standing in the store, the other guys at the top of the stairs are like shouting at each other.
This has got to be bad for business.
Oh man, yeah,
this has got to be scaring the hoes, scaring the normies.
This is
all
such
of
an
it.
absurd situation, and yeah, and so Crowley admits defeat, tail between his legs, goes back to Paris where he meets up with Mathers and is like, hey man, this sucked. Like nothing good went down. We didn't win. And he's like, and he still kind of bought into Mathers, like, I'm a super powerful magician who's in contact with the secret chiefs. And so but then Mathers basically turns around and just starts like bitching and moaning. And he just is like whining about it. He's like whining that he's not in charge of the Golden Dawn. That's all he does. He doesn't like strike the traitors down like Crowley expects him to. He just whines because he's just a fucking whiny nerd. And Crowley's like, whoa, man, maybe this guy isn't the shit who I should throw my lot in. You know what I mean? He basically...
I'm just going to say it, man. I'm just going to say it. There's a lot of big gay babies in the chat. There's a lot of big gay babies in this chat.
Yeah. No, I know.
Crowley, Mathers, I mean, shit.
No, I know. So that's... And then Crowley's like, fine, fuck this. And he leaves the Golden Dawn and lives the rest of his life, a very exciting life that's too big for this episode. But to wrap it up, I mean, essentially at that point, a couple more things happen. The temples sort of stay. The London Lodge is the biggest one. They stay together for several more years. Some of the other lodges sort of fade out, lose membership, become inactive. There's sort of an interesting side quest in all of this. If you remember, the people that I mentioned, it was a couple. They basically stole a couple of a pile of papers from Mathers while he was in Paris. they show back up in London. And what they do is wild, because it's a man and a woman. It's let's see, I have this written down here. This lady is fucking fascinating. Peak, like, spiritualist Victorian era charlatan right here. Swami Laura Horos and Frank Jackson Dutton is the couple. They show up in London
Laura.
and, post up in some boarding house, and they start luring young women with the proposition of, like, marriage to this mystic, the husband. And I mean, they essentially, like, they rob them, and they also, like, and the man, Frank Horos, like, coerces them into sex. I mean, he sexually assaults them. Like, it's really fucked up what they do. Eventually they're caught, and they find with them all of this Golden Dawn paperwork, and it blows the fucking lid on the Golden Dawn. I forget exactly what year this was in. It was like in 1912, I want to say. It was in let's see. Anyhow, 1901. Yeah, it was in 1901 when this happened. And it's all over the paper. The Golden Dawn is all over the papers. There was commemorative postcards made that had, like, submit to the authority of the secret chiefs XD on them. Not really, but you know what I mean. Is they put the turn of the 19th century, the turn of the 20th century equivalent of that, and it blew up. And people, like, they lost so many. The Golden Dawn lost so many members. They changed their name. I mean, it just sort of fell apart. A couple people. So
reading their shit mail would have been hilarious.
Oh my god! Yeah, it was totally,
like when their PO
totally
box
absurd.
or whatever got leaked.
Yeah,
well,
and that's the trial that Mathers showed up for, and they basically asked him, like, "Hey, did you fuck over Wescott?" And he's like, "Yeah." And so it ended up being just the worst possible PR for them.
Does intellectual property apply to a book of occult rituals?
It came up in court. It did. Like, it genuinely came up in British fucking court in the turn of the century.
I mean, Crowley ended up in British court.
Yeah,
so,
no kidding.
It's a tendency.
Yeah. So at any rate, so the Golden Dawn proper lasted for about 20 more years after that, fading in membership, just squabbles and stuff. People went to, so a couple members ended up going to Germany to actually search for Fräulein Sprengels or SDA. They're like, no, really? Because they were like, did this person even exist? Like, because they don't know, like, if Mathers was lying, if Wescott was lying, or if both of them were lying. Yeah, surprise, they don't find her, but they do spread a pretty, relatively speaking, they spread word of the Golden Dawn, and they're like, hey, there's Golden Dawn active in Germany. They were still under the impression that there was a Golden Dawn order active in Germany, which there wasn't. Which is how the Nazis got word of them and ended up banning them, because they're like, oh, you're an esoteric order, in the same way that they banned the Masons, the OTO, and that sort of thing, right? They're like, oh, Golden Dawn, some British, order supposedly active in Germany, ban that too. So, but eventually it just fizzles out, and it's a slow, sad death. People leave, no one new joins, and the part of it is the times, right? I mean, you don't have the same sort of interest in, I mean, with like World War I, how many people socialites are joining occult orders just because they fancy, putting on robes and prancing around. Like,
yeah,
it wasn't.
I would say after World War I,
yeah,
and especially World War II,
yeah.
the idea of a universal brotherhood pursuing and peace and love and harmony, the
Right.
true source of all religions that connect us one to another across time and space, it probably hit something of a cultural ebb. Yeah.
I mean, that was part of it, and then you don't have people like Wescott or Mathers or anyone, kind of these stronger personalities at the helm anymore. Anyhow, and then Mathers dies in 1918. Wescott dies in 1925. Crowley dies in 47, something like that. And that's all. And that's kind of, or sorry, 57. And that's kind of the ending of the Golden Dawn. I mean, there's, like I said, there was, continuations in name only and people reviving it here and there, but nothing that was not really any direct, no direct followers in that sense. But yeah, that's the Golden Dawn, man. Do you have
the
any?
golden sunset, if you
Yeah,
will.
if you will. Is there any clarification you need on anything? Anything you want to expound on?
I mean, we haven't touched much on tarot, and
Hmm.
it's definitely because I am not nearly as knowledgeable on tarot as I am on other subjects. I know the basics, that's about it.
Sure.
But apparently, the Golden Dawn had one of the most elaborate, extensive tarot systems imaginable.
Yeah.
Like at one point, I looked up a typical Golden Dawn tarot spread, and it was like 19 fucking cards. Like it was
Yeah.
crazy.
Was it the what do they call it? The cavalry cross one?
I don't remember. I
yeah.
don't remember the name of it. And apparently, like speaking of the homework, a major component of the homework for the new guys was to do tarot,
Yeah.
and to learn to see the world through the lens of, if you want, Jungian archetypes expressed through imagery in the tarot.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I can elaborate on that a little bit. I'm not the biggest. I don't know. I know a fair bit. And if I were a lesserman, I'd say I know enough to get me laid, but that's not true. I do find it genuinely interesting.
For tarot and astrology, that's probably almost nothing, to be honest.
The thing is, tarot is really interesting because what's most interesting about that is that it's highly accessible, right? Not hard to buy a deck of tarot cards and buy a book that tells you what they mean. And the Golden Dawn sort of perspective on it was that the tarot cards, I discussed this a little bit earlier, but they placed heavy emphasis on the tarot's correlation to the paths and the spheres on the tree of life, right? They've got a really this also not kind of very much does tie in with their concept of gematria. This ends up being a pretty significant portion, in which gematria is basically the utilization of the Hebrew language in magic rituals and for expounding and explaining things. It's one of those things where they're like,
it's also a matter of substituting numbers for letters, right?
So
that's the major thing of it, is like the gematria people and the Kabbalah people, they see the Hebrew writing in the Torah more as like a computer code than a story in, just like a chronological narrative matter, where the actual words in Hebrew, like you substitute, letters for you substitute numbers for certain letters, and therefore certain words have a sum of numbers or digits. And then you get into this whole numerology thing, which is like a self-induced mental illness, where you start intense. Compounding numbers in all these different ways that eventually drive you completely insane, like the movie Pi.
No, it's pretty intense, right? Like that's really gematria in a nutshell, right? I mean, the Hebrew language, to my understanding, like the way it actually functions, even at the time and into the modern days, like you have like they don't have a discrete numeric system like we in America use Arabic numerals, right? Their letters did correspond to numeric values, right? So you would be writing, it's like if you're writing a bill of sale, you would write in Hebrew the goods being purchased, and then you would write the price that was paid for them also in the same Hebrew characters, right? And they take that concept and they say, what if we translate all these funky words into Hebrew, add the numbers together? That number must be important. I mean, Crowley gets a lot into this too. And it's, you can drive yourself nuts because it's like, well, okay, first of all, you're translating like English words into Hebrew that might not have
retcon.
It's
a retcon for sure.
Right. It ends up being a lot of guesswork. The real like practicality when it comes to tarot is that each tarot card, the major arcana, has a attribution to a Hebrew letter, which that Hebrew letter has a correspondence on the tree of life. You have the path of Zadi, you've got the path of Yod, you've got the path of Haig, that sort of thing, right? And you've got all of these, you have this like hard-coded correspondence, right? So if you lay out a spread of tarot cards, you know, a Kabbalist, a Golden Dawn initiate would be able to say, look at a card and say, okay, well, that card refers to this path, which has these symbolic meanings, has these colors and this implication associated with it, and that sort of thing. And that ends up being a really practical and accessible way to interact with the Kabbalah and with the Tree of Life. Now, part of Crowley's thing. So so I kind of have to side tangent just a touch here, because they have their own interpretation, right? This comes from people like Eliphas Levi and all of these other occultists prior to like these attributions were not inventions of the Golden Dawn. They had existed, but one of Crowley's contributions to this like schema of attributions is outlined in the Book of the Law, which was according to him, he didn't write. It was dictated by Iwas and Egypt in whatever year it was. And the big thing that it said, one of the key magical theoretical instructions that it gives is that Zadi is not the star. And Crowley expounds on this by saying that the attribution, I have to look at the layout to kind of be more articulate about it, but essentially one of the attributions is wrong. So he swaps the attribution for Zadi from the star to strength/temperance, I think, and reconfigures it a little bit, which has certain implications that I'd need to go and refresh my memory to really get into the details of. But like that's one of the really key things, the practical magical things that the Book of the Law dictates that's outside of his philosophy, you know, of every man and woman is a star, that sort of thing. That's Crowley's philosophical bent that he gets from the Book of the Law. The practical magical stuff is the modification to the Golden Dawn's attribution. So it's a deviation of his. And because that ends up being extremely important, along with alchemical and astrological things. I mean, they all have connections and attributions. Oh, you are sitting in meditation and you see a vision of a red horse walking down a rainbow or something, right? Those all have discrete meanings for discrete interpretations in the Golden Dawn system. That's really the logic. I mean, you're supposed to see visions, and those visions mean things, right?
Yeah, it seems like what they're really training people to do is they're building this really like dense, overloaded grid of interconnections, right? Where you have, it's the Tree of Life, but it's also the tarot, but it's also astrology, but it's also gematria, right? And so on and it's also it's alchemy, and also it's whatever, on and on and on and on. And trying to create a sort of, if you want, a periodic table of meaning. Yeah. Right. Where you create like a sort of elemental grid of all the things that you can say or represent. Like the trumps in a tarot deck, right? What is it, 23 or 22? Yeah. I can't remember. But what those represent are, in one way of thinking, the various major junctions in life, right? Like all of, trying to take the entire set of things that can happen to you and represent them in clusters, right? And like another example of this in a slightly different way is traditional zodiacal astrology, right? Where you have, the 12 different, what we would now call personality archetypes based on, the constellation of your birth, whatever.
Yeah.
And so
your solar sign.
What that represents to me is an attempt by basically a pre-literate society to take the entire spectrum of human personality. Think about all the different types of people that and all the ways that they're different. Some of them are smart, some of them are stupid. Some of them are moody and emotional, others are very flat, right? Some persevere and are super determined, others give up easily, right? You take all of these traits and you're like, if I had to boil this down to just 12 people, who would those 12 people be? Mm-hmm. And that's what the different signs of the zodiac are. Yeah.
Well, and you talked about making a grid. I mean, you're spot on the money. I mean, if you read through, I think for listeners who have made it this far, well, damn near 3 hours, and are still interested, congratulations. If you're still interested in learning more, if you want all, and I mean all of the nitty gritty details about the entirety of the philosophy and theology and any of that and the rituals, read The Golden Dawn by Israel Regardie. It is by far the most complete and thorough and well-made book on the Golden Dawn. It has a preface chapter where it talks about the history of the Golden Dawn, which is a summary, different perspective than the one we've presented today for sure. Great, excellent book. But specifically when you're talking about a grid, that's Liber 777 that Crowley wrote. He basically took this Golden Dawn information, this material, which is presented piecemeal by design. Okay, you're initiated, you get this. You're a zealoter, you get this. Practicus, etc. He took all of that and said, fuck the grade system. Let's just put this all together. He literally made I don't even know how many pages, huge spreadsheet that has all of the attributions. No, yeah, he just made a
I've
spreadsheet.
seen it. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. And it combines all of that together. So, I reference it. It's like, you ever want to know, what are the scents associated with Mercury? Oh, yeah. There we go. It's whatever. I don't know.
There's a famous cookbook called The Flavor Bible that basically works in this way, where it doesn't really have recipes. It has clusters of different recipe ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Like there'll be a section for lamb, and it will say curry powder, mint, blackberry sauce, right? Leeks, whatever is traditionally good with lamb, and it'll list like all 20 things, and it'll be like, okay, like here's what you could do, pick the protein you want, and then pick 2 or 3, flavor ingredients off of this list, and then chain them and look up those ingredients later on and see what they pair with, to make the other, side in this dish.
And instead of like relying on
yeah, exactly. Where it's like there are certain flavors that we know are good together. There are certain flavors that we know clash. And if you make like a compendium of all these different flavors, you can sort of play hopscotch through a recipe book and kind of know that it's going to work. It's going to kind of be okay.
Yep.
Because it follows this sort of pre-existing grid of stuff that we know works.
Well, and that's very reminiscent of Crowley's philosophy. I mean, he was a freewheeling kind of guy, especially when it came to magic. I mean, he did take it very seriously, but that's sort of the point with things like Liber 777. And I got to say, my favorite Crowley book is Conchon Pax, Light and Extension. Fucking fantastic book. I mean, if you want a more poetical description of the tree of life and what it means, I guess, to transit the tree of life, read Conchon Pax. It's fan-fucking-tastic. But that's kind of what he does, though, is like he's basically like, here's the ingredients. Here's what we know is correlated. Here's the learning that over the millennia or centuries or what have you, that Western esotericism has been around. Here's how it comes together. And here's how you can use these elements in rituals that are prescribed or you've created based on these elements and progress with your spiritual journey. Like that's a lot of his philosophy. So, and a lot of that, it wouldn't have happened in the Golden Dawn. I mean, the Golden Dawn's is Crowley's prototype. I mean, and it's the OTO's prototype really, because that's I think probably its biggest legacy and contribution is Crowley. Frankly speaking, I mean, it's still discussed and talked about, and they, people like Mathers and Wescott put in the work, but Crowley's the one who expounds it and brings it to the people. I'm saying,
I do. My favorite Crowley book, and it's one that almost nobody has read, including Crowley people, is 8 Lectures on Yoga. 8 Lectures on Yoga is a fantastic fucking book.
I have a copy and I haven't read it.
Yeah, it is a heavily streamlined introduction to yoga, and it is the only yoga book I have ever read that is funny. So there's that.
Yeah, man, he'd be I mean, Crowley's been discussed to death, but I gotta say, if you want a perfect fucking bad role model. You look no further. I a couple years ago, I sat down and read through. There's been plenty of biographies on him, but the one that I sat down and read cover to cover was Perturabo. I forget the author off the top of my head. Really, really well done. I mean, I can't. To me, it seemed what they call this out right in the beginning of that book, where they're basically like, yeah, people either love or hate it. You love or hate Crowley. You're kind of in one or the other camps. We're gonna try. Like, they obviously love Crowley. Like, they are obviously in the we like Crowley camp.
Nobody writes that long of a book without
people
liking
have.
him. Yeah,
people have written books because they fucking hate out of pure
that's
hatred.
True.
But they are obviously
I read an 800-page Goebbels biography by a guy I'm pretty sure hated Joseph Goebbels.
Well, right, exactly.
Yeah,
it exists, and so they're obviously in the pro Crowley camp. To me, it felt like they didn't shy away from really the more evil things that he did, because he did truly despicable things. He was not a good person. He was a bad role model. Like so many people, an amazing and brilliant and impactful person, but bad. Not someone who you want to emulate, right? So just throwing it out there. I think it'd be a natural extension of this Golden Dawn episode, but let's see how we feel maybe at some point about it. But I think I've
figured
said
out
all I
what
need
we're
to
gonna.
say.
No, I'm turning you into a regular, whether
Jesus.
you want it or not. I've turned on the tractor beam, and we're gonna call it the Occult Radio Hour with Thomas Vanek.
I gotta give that Richard a good whipping. He shouldn't have brought me in on this. Kept begging me. Just,
I brought in Richard. Richard brought you.
Yeah,
we're bringing the whole gang.
We gotta get the whole gang together. I think that's I think what I mean. Maybe I can. I don't know if it's been discussed already, but I think we were talking about doing an episode where we just batter your mind with Frank Herbert's Dune series. That sounds lovely.
We might as well announce, audience, if you've made it 3 hours into this or whatever it is now, then we might as well tell you that there is going to be a Dune-isode. I have not read Dune. Probably I never will. But for some reason, these two maniacs want to tie me to a chair and tell me about Dune.
Oh, we want it so bad. Yeah. It's going to be...
I can't fight them. I've been fighting them for years. I've been beating Richard with a stick every time he mentions Dune, and he won't fucking stop.
Yeah. And it's the same for me. I think audience, a good visual is I believe it's Casino Royale. It's just Skyfall, where James Bond is tied to a chair and the guy ties the ball of rope and his nuts are hanging out. He just keeps hitting them over and over again.
Yeah.
You know
Mads
what scene I'm talking about? Imagine our good friend Will and Richard and I with long ropes with balls on the ends, just whacking him over and over. But the balls are made of the novel Dune by Frank Herbert. Wow, interesting. So, well, regardless, this has been a blast. Thank you for having me on. I'm so glad to get this all out of my brain into a microphone. Thank you, audience. If you've made it this far, it means a lot to me.
Yeah, well, thank you for comparing me to Daniel Craig. If only to explain that you're going to smash my nuts with a giant rope ball.
I can't. Don't tell me you don't get that all the time. Don't tell me.
Yeah. Well, what can I say? And the other thing, there's no other thing, dude. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for spilling the beans. You've been researching this for a long time, so
yeah,
cool.
It's a passion of mine, and look forward to coming back.
Yeah, I mean, it's like most people who know my show, like they know that I know philosophy, and Thomas knows philosophy too. He's well read. He's got Kant down.
I'm read.
So
just call me. I'm read.
Okay, you have read. You can read. You can read, for example, the Critique of Pure Reason.
I have actually read the entirety of the Critique of Pure Reason.
Yeah, I know.
It's one of my favorites, actually.
Yeah. So audience, don't write the occult out entirely, just because of how much dodgy shit is mixed in there. I mean, just to remind you, Kant, who nobody seems to think was dodgy, his day job was at times being a professor of anthropology, and he once argued that black babies, which he had never physically seen before in his life, were actually born white, but with a little black dot where the umbilical cord touches their navel, and then over the first week of being alive, the black pigment spreads over their skin, and that's how they become black. So Kant was cracked too. Okay.
Yeah. Truly the type of man to take a walk at exactly 5 o'clock every day. Set your watch to that man. Yeah.
Yeah, Kant may have died a virgin and never left Königsberg.
What a life. All right. Peace out. Take it easy.
Bye-bye.
Have we started the fire?
Yes, the fire rises.